lost, there's always a hope. Rise and fight.
We just finished our first semifinals. DeWalt just barely getting through. John Hoon put up an amazing showing, but in the end, DeWalt is going to be our first finalist of BSL Season 14. But now we're going to be going into another Chinese versus Europe matchup. It's going to be this time around Mihu versus Sziky, TVZ. And this is actually a rematch of last season's semifinals.
You know, it's funny. I feel like DeWalt has so many rivals. He's got the classic one with Bonnet, and Quark actually pointed out something absolute genius in the background, which I hadn't considered, is he's practiced to get Bonnet loves the 2-gate opener in PvP. And so he's so well practiced against that really served him in this matchup versus John Hoon. I feel like he's got a growing rivalry versus Sziky because they had their match in Fighting Spirit Mania. You had Sziky able to beat him through, and I have a feeling if Sziky's able to beat Mihu, that's going to be a fantastic finals as well. And Sziky currently slightly ahead in that, as we saw in the round of 16. But also, DeWalt wants another shot at Mihu here in the finals. So it's just kind of like, it feels like, I guess when you're that good, the rivals start growing is what happens. But either way, whoever wins this next match, we're going to have an incredible finals. I have a feeling this time, it's going to be, I think the match is going to go a lot faster, because this is a repeat of BSL Season 13 semifinal, where Mihu was just completely able to roll over Sziky. I'm still favoring Mihu, but here's the thing. In all of those matchups, he skipped early +1. And kind of very similar to his PVT style, or his TVP style. And so I'm wondering if Sziky is just going to opt to, upon seeing that, to just go more aggressive, just try to run him over with something like 2-hatch Mutalisk, or just bowl him over in that regard and try to win early. Because if you let Mihu go through the long game, he just is his macro and his troop movement is just incredibly strong. Which also, I hear the turn rate was pretty good. So I think what this is going to come down to is whether Sziky can bowl over Mihu in the early game, whether Mihu survives and then is just able to strangle Sziky in the mid game.
Yeah, in the past few months, Terran versus Zerg, you're almost seeing exclusively 2 racks openers. So you know this time around, Sziky's going to be well aware of how to definitely defend versus 2 racks. All the different timings, the 21 Academy, which Scan has told me about, the 23 Academy, the non-stop production off of 1 racks into the Academy. And we are going to start off on Turbine. And this was Sziky's pick. You heard that correctly. Sziky picked this map. So let's see what he's got planned. It's got to be something special because this is such an unusual map. We're going into game 1. It's going to be on Turbine. Okay, in the mid left, our European Zerg, it is Sziky.
In the top right, as the red Terran, we have Mihu.
Now, this is just such an unusual map. I would bet money that Mihu was not expecting this to get picked for a long time. So he may have thought like, okay, well, if I can close it out in 4 or 5 games, maybe I don't even have to worry about this map. But the fact that Sziky picked this from the get-go, already you know that he is well prepared for this series. And I was watching Machine play a ZVT on here, and Mech play looked amazing. It looked so deadly. Of course, Terran gets basically a free natural. They can just wall off their entrance here and be pretty safe. Meanwhile, Zerg, where do you take your third base? Right outside your main? I don't think so. Are you going to go to top left, for example, here? You're going to go bottom left? Those are double ramps. It's going to be very hard for Sziky to get a third base on here. I wonder what he's got planned.
Yeah, my 2 questions are, is he trying to bait Mihu into mech play to try to test his... Because we saw Sziky do very, very well against Xuanxuan with the comparative mech build. And he actually ended up dropping a map to Xuanxuan's standard medic marine bio opener. And so that's one factor. Is he trying to bait the mech play to play a macro to see if he can out macro Mihu that style? Or I also wonder if this is just, is he going to go for that Mulus play? And this is a large map where you've got a lot of territory to cover between the main and the natural expansion. And is that the play? Or does he just want something where he knows that there's going to be a third base that's kind of in a more awkward position, maybe just try to catch Mihu off guard in a map that he's maybe practiced less?
Yeah, now we do have Sziky scouting bottom middle. You do have to be diligent with your scouting, because if you just take a quick look at this this map, there are a ton of bases to take. If Sziky takes another main, Mihu also has to check the natural in the main to make sure that that base wasn't taken. So when Mihu does scout here looking for a third base, needs to be very careful to check all of them. Meanwhile, this was a 208 extractor, so this is pretty much the norm for ZVT. Meanwhile, fast command center for Mihu, everything looks very normal.
Looks like, yeah, very normal. And I would not be shocked. What we saw Mihu do a couple times, the drone manager need to sneak in. Looks so it's here for life now. Here to scout. Maybe you can do some harassment behind this first Marine out. And so we'll see what Sziky can get out of this drone. I always feel bad when drones get boxed in. I feel like they're the cutest of the workers, grabbing gas now. But we saw Mihu multiple times, yeah, just go for the 2 racks into Academy build. And then just his troop movement was impeccable. He just keeps that Marine ball extremely tight. And that's where it just seemed like he even was able to break off like a Marine or two and catch Ziki's troops out of position. And
this is
Sziky,
not a good...
Oof. Go ahead.
That's not a good trade. Of course, he's never going to win the drone versus Marine fight. But what makes this a bad trade is you saw the gas timing from Mihu. This could be eBay follow-up, or it could be delayed mech. And you really need to know whether it's an eBay or a factory. The eBay would have started, maybe about when the refinery finished. So the fact that he just died to the Marine, now he has to make a guess. Okay, what is this? Is it going to be eBay or is it going to be factory? We know it's a factory. I think this map more than likely tends to be mech play, but we've seen no games of Terran versus Zerg. I guess it could have been an eBay follow-up.
And on top of that, that Overlord, because of that Marine positioning, is getting boxed out to see whether I think it's getting boxed out to whether see that barracks is blinking or not. So he doesn't even know if additional Marines are being produced. So a lot of information being, Sziky doesn't even know what he's dealing with. Let's see if he even just tries to run Marines up, or the Zerglings up to go ahead and spot that. The one thing that surprises me is usually Sziky likes trying to be aggressive with those Zerglings right off the bat. You know, they call them Zykylings for a reason. And this time opting to go for a map where that's basically, it's shut down just because of the architecture.
He's already got speed, if you notice on his link. Oh, is that a drone going outside of his natural?
What is he up to? Is he gonna seriously?
Okay, he's going to bottom right.
So yeah, I think he's just gonna go ahead and try to sneak a base, maybe at the 3 o'clock location, and play from here. He's in a macro race right now. I hope he realizes he's in a macro race, because that's what happens when it's Zerg versus Terran. Terran's going mech, is you just need to outproduce your opponent. And unfortunately, right here, Sziky still, I don't know that he has a lot of things confirmed.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of bases on this map. You got to be very diligent in your scouting, and this is an LZ Gamer base for sure. It is right next to Mihu's main, and if he does not find this quickly and thinks that Zerg is just camping on 2 bases, well, he's in for a rude awakening, because every Terran knows once the Zerg econ really kicks in, you better be prepared. Otherwise, you're going to get run over, whether it's Ling, Ultra, Defiler. Doesn't really matter. A lot of units are just going to be coming at you all of a sudden. Okay, actually those Lings don't have speed, but they do confirm that 2 Vultures are out on the center of the map. Oh no, he has no sunken colony, so those Vultures actually might be able to box in. So the drone going to try to hold the line, and this could be critical. It looks like the Vulture's just hunting down the Lings, and that actually was lucky on Ziki's part, because he didn't have Mutalisk, he didn't have anything to deal with those Vultures. There's a bunker and a lot of turrets down very quickly here for Mihu. So Mihu actually, I feel like he's in a good position. He's got a strong economy. Now the Mutalisks are out to potentially deal with that Vulture. And he needs to take out those Vultures to make sure they don't manage to sneak up and find that 3 o'clock base. Currently they're hunting. And you can see the Mutalisk spread from Sziky, just trying to find them out on the map. Yeah, now, as Terran, this could be a tell. If you spend a lot of time taking out the Vultures, which I realize are going to delay a 3rd base, but at the same time, there's so many bases on the map. Do you really need to spend this much time with your Mutas? Also, the Mutas are not damaging the econ. If you're going to go Mutas versus me and not damage my econ, You can do whatever you want. I'm fine with that. Just let me macro and get into mid game in a good state, and I'll be feeling very confident as Terran. So already, Terran may think something's up. You can see that he is sending some units to top left to try and find the third base there. Of course, there's nothing there, but he may suspect that there's already a third base hidden somewhere. Yeah, that's probably a Hydra Den.
Yeah. So there's an additional hatchery right there. It looks like these vultures greening up, getting some damage on them. So at least Sziky knows where they are right this second. But yeah, this 3 o'clock base is going to remain hidden. Sziky diving in with the Mutalisks, finds a lot of Goliaths. He's able to slow down something. Is getting a few SCVs, but just diving in. Actually getting, it looks like 3 SCVs. Taking a good amount of damage. But as things stand, I feel like Mihu's done a great job of just macroing. I don't know that Sziky has a strong enough economy to keep up. He's down a decent amount of supply, and he needs to have pure bulk to deal with what Mihu's going to throw out in a minute.
Well, Mihu did see the third hatch in the main for Sziky, but it's way too late for that to be the real third hatch. So either Sziky has another one behind it, or it's hidden. And he may be thinking that actually there's another one behind it, because he has not sent any vultures over to the right side of the map at all. Not bottom middle, not bottom right, and not mid right. So he has no idea that this is going on, and he is going into the 4-fact, 5-fact timing. There is no starport, there's no 2-1, so this is just going to be mass Goliath and going for, I guess, a killing blow.
And Sziky, in the meantime, looks like he wants to just get it done with, I haven't seen a Hydralisk Den down at all, so it looks like maybe he just wants to get done with Zerglings, and it looks like, ooh, in the red, that actually, this hurts right the second, because again, it's a macro race, and it's just having more bulk. There's an evolution chamber, so maybe just Zerglings and Mutalisks to try to win this and overpower the Goliaths that way.
Yep, and recently a couple people have asked me, okay, well, what beats Goliath? And I tell them, well, Hydras can beat Goliath, Queens can beat Goliath, Mutas can beat Goliath. You wouldn't expect that, but Mutas, they're surprisingly tanky versus Goliath because they only deal half damage to the Mutalisk. So 3 gas eco for Zerg running into mass Goliath, as long as the Mutas are upgraded, they can win that fight.
Sziky going in, taking down 1 turret, now 2 turrets. The Goliaths are going to be here to go ahead and push that back. It looks like Charm Booster upgrade is in fact there. That's a full control group of Mutalisks, and I think at this stage Sziky needs to be thinking less about harassing that economy with so many Goliaths on the ground and more about preserving health and bulking up. He's got more Mutalisks starting to produce, and this is going to be the big question. So now actually moving in, trying to engage the Goliath. I don't like that fight. So I honestly, I feel like unless you're going in with 2 control groups and just trying to wipe out everything, it looked like he was thinking, okay, maybe I can pick off 1 Goliath that's been out of the corner, but there were a lot behind it. He just didn't have vision right there. But between this, it looks like, so Mihu has a 10 supply lead. I don't know where he's at on the upgrade stage of things. He's kind of famous for skipping a lot of upgrades. I don't know if that's going to be the case here. But Mihu now starting to move out with those Goliaths and those 2 siege tanks.
Well, I'm wondering what that evolution chamber is for, because there's no Hydra Den. Obviously, you're not building Lings into this. So this could be a fake, try and get Mihu to build more tanks than he actually needs, because this is just pure Mutaman. Unfortunately for Sziky, I don't think he has critical mass Mutas to overwhelm this army just yet. He does pick off a tank, but again, tanks... Oh, you can't bleed off Mutas right there!
Yeah, and this is kind of my feeling. I think Mihu's just done a better job macroing. He's trying to cut off reinforcements, draw Mihu back, buy himself more time to get some more Mutalisks up, but currently he's behind the supply count, an engineering bay in the middle of nowhere. Not sure what that's about. Let's see if the Mutalisks go ahead and take that out. But the other thing is Mihu does need to get a move on, because Sziky is on 3 bases, and eventually he will have an overwhelming attack force.
Another Mutalisk fall. Every Mutalisk counts, obviously. Even if they are low health, they soak up a few of the volleys, and this is a ton of Goliaths. It is 110 to 100, though, and I'm thinking that this Mutaball can beat it.
Now the Mutaball engaging and actually getting a favorable initial encounter. The Mutalisk just diving on top of everything. We'll see what happens when the dust settles. There's no upgrade on these Goliaths. The Goliath pounding away at this. The siege tank's just walking underneath, and it looks like Sziky might have enough. Continuing to press forward, more Mutalisks reinforcing, and now Mihu has had his entire army reset, and that is a lot of resources to lose. They are not. That's the thing, when you're running mech and going to lose that turret, going to lose that SCV, the tank escaping, but Sziky doesn't care. He's going to charge forward with the rest of the Mutalisks. When you get your army reset like this, it is very difficult to recover, because you need critical mass to fight critical mass of Mutalisks, and Ziki's economy is still there. He's actually now got a supply lead.
Yeah, and this is a big misread from Mihu. He still thinks that this is just 2 base. He still hasn't confirmed there's a 3rd base anywhere. And the Goliaths now are stuck in the main. They've got to reset and get to critical mass, but they don't have powerful 2-1 upgrades. There's no vessel support. It's just pure factory, man. The tank's going to come down and kill this drone, and he's going to be feeling great, like, oh, okay, I denied the 3rd gas. But in reality, the 3rd gas has been running for upwards of 5 minutes now, and Hydrogen's set up there too.
And so Sziky, I like Ziki's play here. He's going ahead and he knows he has the lead. He's doing a little bit of reset. Looks like +1 weapons is on those Goliaths now. I might have misread that, and they might have had it previously. But you got +1 weapons, +1 carapace. It looks like on those mutalisks, they're looking very, very strong. You've got a 4th base being grabbed. So you got 3 bases up and running, a 4th being grabbed, and I think that natural mineral being grabbed as well. And Mihu, yeah, he needs to get a move on, needs to make something happen. Otherwise, he is going to get starved out. And you're right. I think he's in a situation where he thinks like, nah, I'm okay here. And Ziki's again diving in with those mutalisks overhead. It looks like they weren't doing a lot of damage initially, so they took a lot of free shots. This might be a reset. More reinforcements coming in, trying to again reset this Goliath down. And it looks like with that +1 weapons, +1 armor, he is shoving those mutalisks back up to the high ground. Just has an overwhelming amount. Still trailing all of this. It looks like he's going to, let's see if he just drops it here and takes out those 3 Goliaths and moves low ground and backs up, because Sziky doesn't need to commit here. He can just go ahead and back up, but he is continuing to attack with the troops he has.
Yeah, this might be a bit of an overstay, but the bunker does fall. There's no turrets to support the factories either. Well, okay, now the mutas are kind of disjointed and they are going to fall, but this was still a good reset for Sziky. However, his supplies did take quite a hit. Again, Mihu's still unable to find mid-right. He desperately needs to kill that base, but I think his army's too small now, even if he finds it, to do anything about it. Also, he lost all of his tanks. You can see he's building vessels now, but he's gas-starved. So he's in a very precarious situation right now.
Yeah, gas is expensive. He's trying to make up the difference by sending these, and I like what Ziki's doing in response, trying to get Zerglings across the map to clear out those mines. Hydralisks are now in the field, and this is just a big economy from Sziky. Sziky looking like he's got a 20 supply deficit right now. So Mihu might be able to do something here in this gap. He might be able to establish additional base. I don't think he's going to be able to just straight overrun, because now the Hydralisks are here and pounding away at these Goliaths. And in combination, it's very difficult for Goliaths to attack in combination. He's trying to grab that 3rd. That's going to get shut down. So Sziky looking strong here in game 1.
Yeah, I love it. It's just an eco game. You know that Terrans built a lot of SCVs. That's what Mihu does. And you're going to mine out your main and natural extremely fast, especially when you can take it so quickly. So as long as he just continuously puts pressure on to Mihu, deny this 3rd base, potential 4th base at bottom right, which we know has already been denied, Ziki's just going to be in a fantastic position. He still misses it. I don't even know if he realizes that there's a base here, because this map just isn't played ever.
Yeah, I don't think he does. But the other thing I got to give to Mihu is he's stayed on top of that macro. He's done what he does. The problem is he's in mech play. He's got a dropship there in the background. That could be devastating in the main. The one thing I'm going to fault Sziky here is he's had these bases. He hasn't had them saturated. Looks like he's now adding hatcheries, where he had a lot of room here to go ahead and press up and take a big macro lead. He's still flagging behind slightly. This is kind of that moment where he could have taken that big lead. So you got dropships grouped up to the north. They're probably going to get spotted with that creep. It looks like there is a sunken colony morphing right now. Sziky adding additional bases. This might be a moment where, and actually Mihu somehow up 40 supply.
Yeah, supplies look heavily in favor of Mihu, but you got to think about where's the supply really. I mean, there was, what, 1 tank, maybe 2 tanks? And Goliath Vulture just isn't going to beat Mass Hydra. That's just not how this matchup works unless you have an overwhelming amount of Goliaths that are heavily upgraded. Now this time around, Vultures are going to find some success. He's going to get multiple drone kills. And something we haven't talked about is the drone count from Sziky. We know he's got a lot at the 3rd base, but what about his main nat and 4th base? Okay, it's pretty saturated.
Looks like the main got a little bit reset, and some Scourge now potentially to deal with those dropships, but Sziky, yeah, he just needs to macro from here. There's a lot of siege tanks. It looks like he's going to go ahead and try to poke from both directions. There's plenty of siege tanks to push this back, though. So I feel like this is a misstep from Sziky. I don't know that he needed to commit to this attack. And so he's going to lead off a lot of Hydralisks. Yeah, that 3rd's up, that's fine. Just go ahead and macro up and out-macro your opponent through the long game. And unfortunately for Sziky, where he had a fantastic opener, he was in a big lead there. I feel like he's flubbing it a little bit here by not focusing on his macro.
Yeah, this is... I'm getting a little worried, but Ziki's econ is still amazing. The fact that he took mid-right and denied this base is obviously a huge blunder. And again, Mihu, he just doesn't know there's a base here. If he knew it was there, I don't know if he could necessarily kill it, but you know he would not be attacking the top left, that's for sure.
Looks like Mihu moving out. I don't know if Sziky has enough to actually stop this attack.
I don't
He's
think he
losing
does.
Hydralisk to some mines behind this. This is a lot of Siege Tanks, a lot of Vultures, a Science Vessel overhead, so I don't know how helpful Mutalisks are going to be. Some Queens are out, but they're not going to have energy to do anything, and that's in the middle of a tech switch for Sziky. He's also in the red as this army is pressing forward. So Sziky, he's got to get something to defend this.
And we know that Dragoons can shoot over the ledge. That means that tanks easily can shoot over the ledge. And this base is going to be shut down. And this massive lead that Sziky has had, all of a sudden just falling apart. Vessel's going to fall, but that's not that big of a deal for Terran right now. Sziky desperately needs to get his eco rolling at top left. I realize he has mid-right up and running, but Mihu's about to be on 4 bases. He's got a lot of tanks now. The Queens take 2 minutes to build up energy.
This was perfect timing for Mihu. I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but finding that queen tech switch, Sziky still has shots in this because if those queens can get energy, and if he can just, this is the thing, these bases have been unsaturated for a very long period of time. I know there's been those vultures harasses at that 11 o'clock. Looks like the Mutalist now diving in now that there's no anti-air to try to take care of those siege tanks and dive into the third. This actually looks like it's going to get more done than I thought it would. So let's see how many siege tanks get taken out. Those Mutalists actually taking forever to kill these siege tanks, unfortunately. So there's just a whole bunch of husks of corpses of, it looks like Hydralisks, and while that was happening, Mihu diving in, taking out the 11 o'clock location. So a bit tit for tat. However, Sziky didn't take out any SCVs there at that third base. And Mihu still has a gigantic roaming army that is devastating all sorts of Zerg bases. It's wiped out 2 bases already. And so Ziki's been reset to 3. And I just haven't seen an army field. He's still down 20 supply.
I honestly think that this game is over, and the reason I say that is because how do you get down your ramp? All of the hatches for Sziky are in his main, and there's about to be siege mode tanks sitting directly outside of your natural. In fact, he can even range these hatcheries, and now, really, there's only one hatch that can actually get out onto the map, and that's at mid-run.
Maybe the Queens, if they have spawn broodling, can make something happen. There's some Mutalists diving in that looks like they're going to wipe out the Goliaths and try to clear the rest of this up. That way, the siege tank's just ignoring the rest of this, trying to walk right in. They're running into a sunken colony. So it looks like actually Mihu now, with the overcommitment and the flub, is going to end up losing a lot of siege tanks. A nice quick tech switch there for Sziky, and he's now just down 10 supply, but honestly, he hasn't had a supply lead this entire time. Finding an exposed base in that bottom right-hand corner with that army wiped out. Now Sziky might be able to wipe that out and regain the lead.
Well, actually, that tech switch was perfect because the Goliath count is low, and we know the vessel count is low because of how long Mihu was on 2 bases. He knows that bottom right is up and running, so he instantly heads over there. There's only 5 Goliaths and a handful of turrets. These Goliaths are not long for this world. They do have +2 armor, which means they're extremely tanky, but they don't have they do just now got +2 weapon. But Sziky desperately needs to knock down this base and reset the base count to 3-3.
Yeah, that'll be huge, especially because mech is not medic marine. It is expensive, and you need to keep that bulk army up. And so if he can take out this base, get rid of that gas, in particular get rid of that gas, and wipe out this production, then Mihu's going to be in trouble once again. But Sziky does need to stay on top of macro. This is the first time I'm seeing him have a supply lead in this match.
Oh, he might pop all of the Goliaths and also get the vessel. The vessel's so close to having 75 energy, but not just yet. That's a good Irradiant. Needs to split ASAP. And what this does do is the vessel finally finds mid-right. But, okay, well, Mihu's going to instantly move over here and try and kill it. Now, the question is how do you escape these drones? Because that's a big deal. Look at like, there's no other eco for Sziky other than his main, which is about to mine out pretty soon. Oh, an infested command center.
That's what I was waiting to see. I'm like, the Queen's nearby. Are we going to see it? Now we have an infested command center on the ground. More Queens moving up. I think they might, if they have spawn broodling, they could clean up this attack force. Mihu is down a significant amount of supply, so I don't know that he has enough to breach.
Oh, he can pop all these tanks. He can pop every single one of these tanks. He has 6 Queens. There's only 4 tanks. Goodbye. And that means that this base will survive for now. And still, Sziky needs to get another base, though. But for now, he's got a 30 supply lead. And Mihu's kind of on his last leg. He only has that base outside of his main.
And yeah, critically, he's missing gas. And when you have mech, you need gas. It is your lifeline. It is your lifeblood. And this isn't, again, it's not Medic Marine. That army is expensive and huge. And with those queens roaming around the map, and now an infested command center you need to worry about, like, this is looking good for Sziky again.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I thought that for sure once the tanks got in position outside of the natural, that was going to be it. But genius move to switch back into the mutas. And now there's so many mutas that they can still overrun an isolated Goliath army. Vessels, Irradiate's amazing, but you need more than just Goliath Vessel, especially when it's Muta, Hydra, and Queen. And now what does Mihu do? He needs another base, but obviously he can't take mid-right. And it's going to be a struggle for him to get top-middle when he's down so much supply.
Yeah, and we'll see if Sziky starts taking additional bases himself. He does need to keep rolling the economy. And it looks like the Mutals looking hunting. What I do like what Zyky's done is he's not grouped up ever since those science vessels out there, he hasn't grouped up. It looks like Mihu trying to float out a command center to take that base. But as the SCVs are transferring, here come the Hydralisks and the Mutalisks. The Radiate being dropped absolutely everywhere. But again, those Mutalisks aren't pumped this time. Goliath's on the high ground, dealing with some misfire right there. The Queen's looking for something to spawn brutally in between, holding that ramp. The Hydralisks, there's just too many Hydralisks. They're going to punch up to this. And I think this might be the moment where, especially as these get wiped out, that command center's not long for life. The Hydralisks can just walk up, focus fire, and the Queens are right there to take that out. Some siege tanks trying to reinforce from behind, but Spawn Broodling is right there, so it doesn't look like Mihu has sufficient force. And that command center, as soon as it gets in the red, the Queen is instantly going to be able to snag that. Thank you very much. And I think that is going to be GG. I think that's the GG moment there for Mihu.
Yeah, but look at mid-right for Sziky. That base is mined out now. He's got a lot of drones there. He needs to get them across the map. But he's got 3 additional bases, mid-left, top-left. The mineral only outside his main and natural, and Mihu's still struggling with just his mineral only. Look at this, drone transfer through those turrets at mid-right, back through the center of the map.
This is getting really chaotic. You have drones fighting vultures mid-field, and that's actually significant, because Sziky needs to keep his economy rolling as well. Mihu moving out with what attack force he has, and actually a great engagement point on the low ground. Some Hydralisks engaging the vultures from behind. Hydralisks versus siege tanks, which is not usually the match you want if you're Zerg. Some Irradiates potentially going to get dropped in between, and the supply count very low for both players.
Yeah, supplies all of a sudden plummeted for Sziky down to 85. Mihu still has a fighting chance. Sziky's Nat is basically mined out. There's very little eco for him now. Obviously, very little eco for Terran also. I think the difference maker is the fact that those Queens stay alive so long. Anytime tanks are isolated, they get instantly picked off. And look at the mineral only, almost dry.
Yeah, and it's funny because now Sziky, I don't even know that he needs to defend this at this stage. If he wants to, what he really needs to concentrate on is getting that 11 o'clock base saturated and making sure he's saturating and establishing additional bases and just denying what else to Mihu. And right now, Mihu only mining at his mineral only. I'm assuming that gas has been depleted at the main and the natural. Looks like the science vessels, they've got parasites on them, so they're not long for life. They're trying to irradiate the Scourge to at least get something, 2 of them getting wiped out. But this is just an absolute skeleton crew for Mihu. Looks like he's using that barracks to go ahead and blockade so that the Queens can't drop, but the Broodling's sneaking under it, and now a mine getting dragged from those Broodlings underneath as well. I don't know that Sziky even needs to dedicate to this defense, though.
So he wants some connects onto something. Maybe it was a Goliath. But yeah, why attack this base? There's nothing here. He might as well just let him continue to mine the gas, or at least just take down the gas and then just back off. But the problem for me is he just has no money. I don't even, like, look in his main. He floated his command center to the top left and it died. So he's got to rebuild a command center, or float his Nat, or float his third base. If he floats his Nat, he's not mining gas.
Yeah, and that mineral only is looking really, really thin. So Hydralisk now moving the map. I almost want to slap Sziky on the hand. I'm like macro man, macro. It feels like he really hasn't gotten some of these additional bases established and had the drone saturation. He's been sitting at 100 supply for an extremely long period of time, kind of engaging absolutely everyone on the map. And I want to get, I guess, heads up to or hats off, I should say, to Mihu, because he's going in, he's getting more drone kills here. It doesn't feel like this base has ever been saturated, and Sziky is just having trouble. He keeps trying to engage these units all across the map, and he's not. It just feels like his supply's been stuck at 100 this entire match.
Yeah, Mihu always the king of making it crazy. His vulture harassment is impeccable. Clearly not just in Terran versus Protoss. Another big mine connection takes down 3 Hydras, and that supplies in favor of Mihu. The problem, though, is still the Queens are alive. Look at the tank count. It's at 4. There's 2 Goliaths. There's like 1 vessel. There's not a lot of power in this army. There's an infested Terran.
Terrans. So we'll see. I almost wonder if an Overlord can get down here, and we'll see if Drop has also been upgraded. It looks like Queen's going to find some... Oh, this could be huge. Is it going to land? That looks like it gets dudded, by the way. I feel like the need to shout out Dead Infested's tournament here with the Infested Terran maps, which are absolutely hilarious, but you do have to micro those. Otherwise, they will end up dudding like that. But Sziky, all of a sudden, with a huge bank, looks like he is going to be able to resaturate that 11 o'clock position, but he needs to, he still needs to macro up. He's got a lot of queens behind this, but he needs to start whittling down Mihu's army, make sure he denies additional base, and again, climb in supply, because Mihu's still with the supply lead.
Yeah, but now that Mihu's mined out, literally completely mined out, there it is. He is not mining at all. It feels like it's still okay for Sziky, but I agree, he needs to get those bases up and running. Build Sunkens like he did at mid-right and shut down these vultures. Every time Mihu pokes in and loses vultures, I mean, he can't replace them. He just doesn't have the money.
Yeah, at a certain point, I'm like, is this a broken... Sziky's just refusing to macro here. Absolutely refusing to macro, and it's allowing Mihu to get back in this match. We do have a Defiler now making his way to the bottom right-hand corner. Mihu, if he establishes this space and gets it up and running, honestly, I feel like Mihu, he's not that far behind in supply. Hydralisk sneaking up. It looks like they are going to get favorable fights on top of SCVs to be able to wipe this out. Mihu rushing now in with vultures and siege tanks. And I think there's still more SCVs behind this. Now the Queen's moving up to go ahead and pop those siege tanks, I believe. So it looks like Sziky is going to be able to deny this base. And now finally the supply absolutely jettisoning for Mihu. He's down to 50 supply, Sziky with 100. But it feels like he's going to win this match without ever going over 120.
And that's another command center that's going to be infested. All the SCVs also died, and there it is, GG. So this time around, Sziky already striking back, making a bit of revenge from last season's semifinals. He's up 1-0, but I have to say, not convincing. Like, I realize he won, but remember, he hit a base for 20 minutes, and it was still a struggle.
He hit base. His macro, even being so far ahead, his macro faltered for large portions of that match. And Mihu just was everywhere. Honestly, I think, how do I put this? I feel like Mihu wins matches by forcing his opponent to micro and just macroing like a beast behind it, and just having cohesive unit falls. And if it continues for the rest of the matches, I doubt Sziky's ability to overcome that macro advantage. So even though the win, everything lines up to say when we're not planning on Turbine and when Mihu's not going mech, that Sziky is potentially going to fall behind. And really what I want to see moving into kind of more standard maps is maybe, going for a 2-hatch Mutalist, trying to just overpower Mihu in the early game. But we'll have to see what happens. But even with the win in game one's favor, what more can you ask from a game one? You got Infested Terrans out there. When is the last time we saw Infested Terrans in any BroodWar match? So good series thus far. I hope it continues. But yeah, right now I'm expecting a swing back to Mihu's favor.
And so I'm looking at the map choice order that the players have agreed on. Next map is going to be Butter. It's a 2-player map. And a lot of players play Goliath on this map for whatever reason. Mech seems to be a standard follow-up, but at the same time, I've seen players like Rush go for a wall, go into Bio, go into fast +1 weapon, and just punish Zerg players with a fast +1 and command center follow-up. So we'll see if Mihu wants to go for Bio, or if he will go into that mech play that we see a lot of times on Butter. I'm surprised. Our players are already ready, so let's get into game 2. It's going to be Butter. All right, in the top right, our blue Zerg. It is Sziky.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran, we have Mihu.
Yeah, now this is the dream spawn for Mihu because he can put that double depot wall with the barracks, be completely walled off at his natural, and then command center behind it. Also, Rush has showed us that you depot wall your entrance, not the nat, but the entrance to your main. Go for a scout, and if you see a hatchery, you go 14 CC follow-up. So this is an amazing spawn for him, and we'll see what he wants to do with it.
I'm curious if Mihu is So if we see mech again, Sziky has shown to hidden. And actually, it's funny. I was in between break. We were talking about, oh yeah, we're rapidly going into the next match. I'm not shocked because I'm sure Mihu just brought up that replay, saw the hidden third hatch, and went like, oh, shrugged his shoulders, and then decided to play on. But despite that, Sziky has shown that he can go heads up against Mihu's mech. So I wonder if Mihu is going to opt for just going for his bread and butter medic marine play. And if he does, to be honest, I haven't seen Sziky be able to beat that yet.
Yeah, like I was saying last season, Mihu just had so many units, and if you were to watch the game and blur out the player names, there would be no planet where you think that Zerg was Sziky, because Ziky's so high rated, so strong, that you would think it's impossible for a foreigner to dominate him as hard as he got dominated. So Mihu, more than likely, I would say, is going to go into the bio play. We do see that Mihu has opted for neither of the strategies I talked about, neither wall, not at the entrance, or the natural. He is just going to go for a standard Rax placement.
You know, it's funny in these in-between breaks, it's like I know that we're watching this a couple seconds early. It just feels good being able to see this match a couple seconds earlier and see it live and just, I don't know, I get chills in this one. It looks like 3 SCVs trying to... Sziky doing a good job of harassing that drone, actually. So 3 SCVs trying to initially, it looks like finally that SCV going to break off to do some scouting, but is he going to get it? He's doing some great micromanagement. That SCV pulling off, it looks like it's not going to miss a beat though. But that's delayed mining time now for Mihu.
Yeah, this is so annoying. This is one of those games where I'm sure Artosis is typing in the chat, didn't know I was playing an ASL finals. He hates when players micro like this. And we do see that this was, again, another standard follow-up from Sziky. Looked like another 210-ish gas. Drone getting a ton of intel. Still sees no gas. No command center coming in for Mihu. He didn't skip any drones, or didn't skip any marines, I mean. He's just going to go for that 17cc.
Yeah, I think he was trying to interrupt that CC, blocking that SCV out a little bit. Now that marine going ahead and blockading that drone back. That drone did a lot, and it deserves like a hero's welcome when it gets back home. But that Overlord a little out of position. Mihu getting some good damage on it. Let's see if he can go ahead and get into that corner. And able to hit it quite a bit. It looks like it is going to be able to sneak back into that corner. It looks like spawning pool up. SCV is at least in that base. But yeah, Mihu going for early economy upon seeing that 12th hatch. He's going to have a good rolling start. And yeah, this is where I start worrying for Sziky. And I really do want to see if he opens up with some early all-in aggressive play.
Well, we do see that this is like a 305 lair timing, which means it's not the fastest lair that you have ever seen. So this is probably going to be a somewhat quick third hatch somewhere out on the map again for Sziky. His econ should be a little bit better than the normal, I think, 250-ish lair timing. Meanwhile, there's the eBay. And you talked about it earlier. Mihu didn't really prioritize upgrades last season, but this time around, not only has he shown mech, he's now going to be going into fast +1.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the first time I've ever seen him versus Zerg go fast +1, which shows, I'm wondering he's thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, which is, okay, I showed no fast, I didn't show +1 in a lot of those previous matches, and that is potentially exposed to someone with really good Mutalist micro to just bully you over, and Sziky has very good Mutalist micro. So this time, going to have that early +1, which is really, if Sziky does opt for that Mutalist play, is really going to negate it. And I kind of like that, actually. Although I think it's a riskier play versus Sziky, because Sziky, when you do that, you do have to worry about your natural expansion, because you end up a little bit lighter on Marines. And Sziky is one of those guys that will run you over with Zerglings early.
Well, as a Terran player, I'm watching this build unfold from Mihu. I'm getting worried, because that's a 420 Academy. That's extremely late. In fact, you see a lot of players build like a 330 Academy, and it takes 50 seconds for stim to complete. So basically, what Mihu is doing here is he's saying, okay, well, when I could have had stim and range done by the time your mutas get here, I'm going to basically just be starting range when the mutas get across the map. And that's not a good situation for Terran. It's so hard to engage. I realize Terran's going to have a fast +1, but if you can't actually fight the mutas, I don't see how +1's going to help you here. We know Sziky has amazing muta control. So this could be a big mistake. He needs to instantly get stim here. Like, he cannot waste even like 3 or 4 seconds not clicking that upgrade. Okay, instantly he gets it, thankfully.
Looks like we do have that in-base third hatch. Some Zerglings making their way down. And this is one thing I do want to credit Mihu for, is he's always been very diligent about having some nice positioning around his natural expansion to go ahead and defend that. So Spire's up. Looks like we're seeing the initial Mutalisks start to field out. And yeah, we'll see whether Mihu can survive Sziky's assault. This is the thing. Sziky, it felt like in the previous matches, was just being very, very, very aggressive with his Mutalisks.
Okay, what's that SCV doing? Is that a 5th? Okay, it's not a 5th Rex. In the ASL, we saw Rush go for a somewhat similar thing where he rushed +1 weapon, and then he went into 5 Rax follow-up. Oh, did he cancel a Rax? Okay, he canceled. I don't know why, because 4 Rax is a pretty common follow-up versus Mutas, and it's still not even bad versus Hydras, or Lurkers, I mean. So I'm curious why he canceled the Rax here. But he's just going to go into a factory follow-up.
Looks like the Academy is continuing with its upgrades. The Mutalisks now making their way across. So that's going to be, yeah, the usual 6:30 timing entrance. Is he going to find... Here's the thing. Sziky's been dedicating attacks regardless whether turrets are in place or not. And just diving in and trying to pick off what he can. It looks like you got an upper turret ring, but not a lot of Marines and medics to swing in behind this if he goes ahead and just flies over those initial turrets.
Yep, and now he's getting into the Gypsy sweet spot. Okay, now he finds isolated Marines. Remember, these Marines don't have range. They may have +1. They don't just yet. But even if they do, how are you going to engage these Mutas? It's 6 Mutas. They one-shot Marines in a single volley. But Sziky seems to have gotten caught.
Looks like he's flubbing a bit of micro here as well. It looks like he was trying to maybe see if he could target down that bunker. But yeah, he's got this Mutas now trapped in between the gap. He's doing a pretty good job, though, at picking off Marines on the corner. Mihu looking to engage. And there's one advantage for Sziky here, though, is it looks like he has put down a 3rd hatchery. And with these Mutalisks at this position, that is going to cause Mihu to at least stay here with those Marines.
Yeah, so I was wondering about why Mihu may have canceled his 4th Rax. And I remember he canceled it as soon as he scanned. So he may have scanned and saw that the 3rd hatch was in the main. And when the 3rd hatch is in the main, well, there's no reason for you to be out on the map. It's not like you're moving across the map to cancel a 3rd base, because flat out doesn't exist. So that might have been the thought process for the cancel. You see that Sziky actually has a 4th hatch, and it is at a 3rd base. And now Mihu has a sizable army. He has scan top left, and he is going to start moving out pretty soon.
Well, let's see if he moves out, if Sziky does another dive, because now he's moving in with massive, a full control group of Mutalisks. It looks like both the turrets going to get taken out. The Medic Marines ignoring this, streaming forward. So the SCVs, looks like it's going to be a potential trade situation. Sziky wiping out everything at the main currently. Let's see if he just goes on an SCV hunt. But I don't know what happens in this exchange situation. I saw 2 Sunken Colonies dropping behind this, but I don't know that Sziky has enough to defend this at home. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I think he's got enough. And the eBay may even fall. +1 is already done, so it's not a big loss. But what makes it somewhat of a big loss is he can't build turrets anymore once that is gone. 4 Marines are going to try and fend off 9 Mutas. We know how that fares. That's just not going to be successful at all. And the starport is not done. There's no armory or something for Valkyries. There's no science facility for vessels. The 3rd base is going to die. But Sziky doesn't care because he's in such a fantastic position right now.
Yeah, Sziky's happy to go for that exchange. He's still getting a lot of SCV kills. He's still gotten a lot of disruption. He's still just been, very abusive here. He's got a bunch of Sunken Colonies moving out with some Zerglings now. So yes, that 4th was taken out, but Sziky, actually, I wouldn't be shocked if these Zerglings and these Mutalisks go and try to hunt that army down. And he's already on his way to Hive Tech. It looks like the Zerglings pocketing just underneath that. Let's see if he can find the army.
Well, the army of Terran is quite isolated, and Sziky did spend a lot of gas on his Mutalisk play, so he doesn't have that many Hydras, doesn't have that many Lurkers. He is going into Hive, and he doesn't even have Carapace, really, so this is not an unwinnable game for Mihu, especially since he has supply lead right now. But what I was looking at was that nat gas. It just went up, and remember, the gas in the main was shut down for like 2 minutes. So there was no gas income, and Mihu's not going to be able to pump out vessels.
Yeah, and that was a big factor in his previous wins, is just having a huge amount of science vessels that are radiating just absolutely everything on Sziky's side of the map. We still have some drones pocketed. Still no additional base, though, from Sziky, and the Medic Marines are now moving forward. They might actually catch this Mutalisk army out of position.
Oh, there's already Mutas in the base. Those are just additional Mutas over on mid-right, and Sziky's not paying attention, so those Mutas all die. Those were probably the hurt Mutalisk, but still a decent trade for Sziky. He's going to pop the eBay this time, but you can see Sziky's supply is dwindling. It is still manageable. It's a 20 supply lead for Mihu. He still kept his worker count decently high, more and more Marines are dying left and right. These Mutas have +1 weapons, so they splash and deal a ton of damage. Now, you know what I would actually like to see? Guardians. Because he shut down the gas for so long, you gotta know that even if he was mining the nat gas, you simply just can't have that many vessels. So I'm hoping to see, even if it's just 5. 5 is enough to bait out all the irradiates.
Yeah, I think this is turning into a similar situation as the previous match, where Sziky is microing well. He's getting in good situations, but Mihu's just sticking with it and macroing, and all of a sudden he's got a huge supply lead. He's got a lot of medic marines on the map. He's got +1 weapons, and there's still no additional base for Sziky. And Sziky just, feels like potentially refusing to macro, refusing to take additional bases. And now he's in a situation where I'm not entirely sure he can defend his holdings.
Yeah, I actually think he's going to lose mid-left. I think he's going to lose top left because he went too hard on the Mutas. Well, there's no way Marines lose this fight. There's too many Marines, there's too many medics, and there's no lurkers anywhere. It would be different if there's even just 2 lurkers here, but there's absolutely no lurkers at all. Finally 2 complete, but I think that egg actually blocks them in, and he needs to scramble to get the lurkers into position at top left because he's done a lot of damage. But if he keeps getting denied a 3rd base, Mihu will turn this game around.
There is the win condition for Sziky where he does have lurkers, he has Defiler. If he can maybe sneak around and get in a good position and cap on that natural expansion potentially, he has finally gotten lurkers out to 11 o'clock. So it's not like this is game over. But I gotta say, just looking at the way things stand, Mihu's staying on top of the macro, not panicking, taking out additional bases. I actually am going to put him strongly in the lead right here. However, Defilers are out. And we do have that, we've got a Nidus Canal to reinforce, but this is the stage of the match where Mihu is so strong. He just macro, and we've seen oftentimes Sziky, is just not staying on top of his macro to keep up in these matches, and now the science vessels are starting to fill in as well.
Yeah, 5th Rax coming in. Vessel finally getting out onto the map, Irradiate coming in. So, I mean, Irradiate's going to be devastating because there's only 3 lurkers, there's only 1 Defiler, and there's nothing that can really stop this Terran army unless there's lurkers, unless there's Plague or Dark Swarm. There's a Dark Swarm, but how many does he actually have? He only has 1 more, and this army is going to be pushed back. But if you look at that engagement, the Lings actually didn't kill very many Marines at all, so they're just going to scoot around and find a better angle to hit top left.
And I'm wondering if Irradiate wasn't researched there, because an Irradiate wasn't dropped from the Defiler. It was kind of out of position. And yeah, this is going to be a difficult defense for Sziky in the upper left-hand corner, and so now this has been scouted. And look at that, there's just absolutely no drone saturation on the mineral line as well. This is just a very unsaturated base. So now Mihu moving in, this is potentially going to wipe out this 3rd. And yeah, I can't see, maybe if he gets a magical Dark Swarm down, he is going to Dark Swarm, try to come in from another angle. But this is going to be very challenging.
There's just so much bio, but what is lacking is there's no fire bats at all. The Scourge don't connect. That means that this Defiler is going to get irradiated. The Lurker is going to get irradiated too. But the Marines have already done a ton of damage. In fact, they just sit through the Plague because they don't care. You're going to take down another Lurker. You're going to take down the Nidus. And there's not a lot of DPS in the Lings right here. Maybe the Lings can take down these 4 Marines, but I don't think so. Look at supply. It's now a 60 supply lead for Mihu.
Yeah, Sziky's just really flubbing the macro side of it, and Mihu is staying right on top of it. So despite what looked like a very strong opener, oh, great Plague right there. I don't know that this is going to get cleaned up, though. These Marines still holding. Finally, Mihu getting evicted, but that base is still not mining, and another army already marching out. I think the Science Vessel survived that attack, so there's more Radiates to come.
Yep, more Radiates. And you know what there aren't more of? There are not any more Defilers or Lurkers. There's just 1 Defiler. Lings can't beat this. They just can't, especially if Mihu start mixing in firebats. He needs more gas-intensive units. Sziky's got a lot of gas, but he's just not using it.
Just not using it. Yeah, just the macro. The macro is what's missing here, and that is what's giving Mihu a really strong position. He's already grabbed a 3rd base, and I don't think Sziky can stop it. Looks like he's going to dive on this. Oh, he should be able to clean that up. Scourge landing on the Science Vessel, so a bit of a mercy right there. Actually, it looks like those Lings are going to get cleaned up. I was hoping they were Adrenal upgraded. It looks like they're not Adrenal upgraded as of yet, so they're going to get cleaned up. We have an Ultralisk Cavern down for Sziky, but I'm wondering if it's too little too late, because that's 116 supply to 52 right now.
Yeah, and Ultralists are only good if you have upgrade advantage. Otherwise, Marines are pretty darn strong versus them. And as you point out, the Lings don't even have Adrenaline upgrades, so they're just instantly pop. Scan at the natural, confirms that there's nothing there, so this base is dead, and Mihu, he somehow is going to take this game. Sziky had a very strong Muta play, but in the end, it's just too much macro.
Yeah, and this is, again, what I wanted to see. I like the Muta play out of Sziky. Actually, I would like to see that again. I'd like to see him, though, commit a little bit harder on the Muta play, I guess, and finish the game out. Or sit back and stop focusing on micro for a half second and get some bases established and keep up the macro side of the match, which is very, I don't know if Sziky's playing nervous or what, but it's kind of uncharacteristic of his play. Usually you'll see him sit back and macro up in the midst of this. Maybe it's a bit of merge playing and hopefully that evens out. But right now, Mihu loses game 1, but shows why he's such a strong player and so hard to defeat in game 2. He's just a macro stud, and he's Uv style. He is going to run you over with I gotta say, testament to him to have all of the damage that happened and still stay in that match and end up closing it out for victory.
Yeah, and now that we've seen 2 games in a row where the macro has slipped for Sziky, you're starting to think like, okay, well, if Mihu just survives mid-game, can Sziky ever take him down? Because it seems like it just doesn't matter. As long as he's not dead, he's going to somehow recover. And it's the same thing as last season, too. Like, Mihu just had a dominating win versus him because, again, the macro was lacking from Sziky, and he couldn't get outside of his base even in that series. I mean, at least he got outside of his base this time around, but not enough lurkers anywhere. And if I was him, I honestly, I don't know what I would do if I was him, because it just feels like he can't touch the macro of Mihu.
Yeah, and that was kind of my assessment moving in, which is why I wanted to see more of the Zergling floods or the Mutalisk floods early. Special thanks to everybody who's gifting donations, gifting subs. Try to get that BSL goal up. I definitely want to have BSL Season 15 secured for Zero here, especially because it's his birthday tomorrow. So everybody in chat, be sure to wish him happy birthday in between the matches. But I'm wondering if Sziky, now reevaluating, will opt for more all-in Mutalisk play, because he did find ground there. And Mihu, I think he's more comfortable with the 2 racks play, and I would be concerned to see him try that engineering bay +1 with all the delays, considering I think Sziky does have really strong Mutalisk micro, and it could cost him.
Yeah, so the third map is going to be Good Night, a 4-player map. I know that Scan really hates top left because the SCVs bounce off the minerals and start mining from the backside for absolutely no reason. So that could be a point of vulnerability if Mihu spawns at top left. But so far, I mean, even with the hidden third base on Turbine, it didn't seem like Sziky had that much econ anyways. Good Night at least is a little better than Butter. You have mid bases, that are on high ground, you have Nat and main bases that are on high ground, which you don't necessarily have on Butter. So I think you'll have a more successful time taking a third base this time around. But Mihu, he just looks as strong as ever, very on point, and I like how he's shown us 2 different styles with the mech and now the eBay. And I imagine probably he's going to even mix it up again and just go into normal 2 racks and really try and shut down that third base again.
I can't remember if it was Revolver Goodnight or Wavelet previously, where
I think it was Wavelet.
Was it Wavelet? Yeah, I think it was Wavelet. In this exact rematch of the semifinal from last season, where Mihu just absolutely got that macro lead and just was sitting outside of Sziky's natural expansion. And I feel like Goodnight is another map where we could potentially see that sort of action from him. So I think this is one of those maps where, I don't know, Sziky's got to survive. He's got to find some way to win on this one.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I don't even think Mihu has gotten into his strongest point in the game. In the previous BSL, he went into like 7 racks on 2 bases, and the macro was absolutely bonkers. So far, he's only been on 4 racks, and still Sziky's struggling. So game 3 is ready. It's time to get into Good Night and see who's going to pull out or get in the lead with a 2-1 score. Okay, in the top left position, our Zerg, it is Sziky.
The top right has the red Terran from China. We have Mihu.
Yeah, so Good Night. I personally think that this map is pretty darn good for Terran, but I know a lot of other Terrans think otherwise. It's a pretty standard 4-player map. Easy to get a third base, easy to get a fourth base. You know, if there's high ground there, you can split it, and we know that Mihu does like to split and go into if I remember, on the wavelet game going into tanks, not necessarily into a mech switch, but like mass marine medic with tank support. So we may get to see that if this turns into another long one.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Sziky, if he is going to win it, he needs to win it early. And he needs to do it with, something along those lines, which is tough against Mihu, especially because we saw in the semifinal previously when Sziky was trying to do his standard backstab style thing, Mihu was right on top of shutting it down. And really shut it down better than I've seen really any other Terran in BSL up to this point. And so I almost wonder if there was kind of a preview of that practice style where Sziky was really just trying to jump and just try to devastate Zhuan really early, if that is kind of his hopes in this match as well. I do think he's got the right idea, which is I gotta out micro and win the game early, because otherwise once Mihu gets rolling with the macro management, I can't keep up. But thus far, I don't know. I haven't seen it, and I'm a little bit unconvinced. Where previously in his EVPs and everything, I was like, okay, Sziky looks like he's going to the championship. Thus far, this hasn't looked like championship caliber play out of him.
Yeah, and so far, we really haven't seen any deviation in his build. It's going to be another 210 gas for him, and it's going to be 2-hatch play. I'm not saying that he necessarily should have gone for 3-hatch, because then you're just going to get into a macro slugfest versus Mihu, because you have no pressure with fast mutas. But the fact that this opener, well, I mean, it did work on Turbine, but did it really? I mean, you hit a base for so long that I would kind of say that the initial opener didn't really work out in your favor. So we'll see what Sziky wants to do here. Is he going to hide another base somewhere on the right side of the map, or will he just take mid-left? I think that could be a smart move, taking that as your third base. It's hard to break if you take mid-left.
Mihu, I like what he's doing. Well, never mind. He wants to try to trade fight there with the Marine. Was maybe trying to interrupt that SAV with that command center, and did a little bit of delay and did a little bit of shenanigans, at least by that bit of time. And yeah, we'll see if this drone moves up and takes an additional base, or if it just returns to one base. Now we see that layer upgrading.
Well, Mihu has changed his style, because this is another potential eBay or factory timing. Actually, this is a 3-minute gas compared to a 250 gas, so this is more than likely going to be the eBay. And there it is. Okay, so it is going to be another +1. Now remember, 420 Academy last game. Sziky got a lot of damage done with the no-range Marines really not being able to do a lot of work. But still, Mihu stabilized, and this is looking like it's going to be a repeat of the game we just saw.
SAV sneaking in the meantime, it looks like it's going to be able to meander right past that Zergling to go ahead and spot the layer timing, and should be able to hang around here for quite some time. I think the Zerglings were making their way across the map to see. In fact, it looks like there's a bit of a fight at the natural expansion. Zergling's going to be able to skip their life, but able to kind of confirm the Marine count. Also doing a little bit of shenanigans there. Let's see, but that's going to be a long time. So that SCV is going to be able to sit in the base, going to be able to go ahead and see that layer timing. Has eyes, has that +1 weapon, an academy afterwards. Okay.
That is a 340 academy with a very fast eBay. And you got to cut something, and this time around, Mihu cut Marines. I realize he didn't necessarily cut Marines because he built pretty much nonstop out of his racks. I guess he cut his second barrack, so that's where the cut actually was. But Sziky built additional lings. There's only 5 Marines right now versus, I think, 7 to 9 lings. This is the move that Sziky needs. It's going into the net right now.
It looks like the Zerg, nice backup, and SEV engaging this as well, and this is what I'm talking about. Me very diligent on that defense. Just really good backing it up despite. So that's the one thing when you open up engineering bay first and you're going for this style of play, you have fewer Marines to defend on the front. And Sziky was trying to build what looked like Zerglings out of the natural expansion to go ahead and take a shot at this, but really, really well defended and repelled there by Mihu.
Yeah, and that could have been a dire situation for Mihu though if he didn't back up on that ramp. So nice control there to limit the surface area on the lings, and Sziky did not get the damage that he was looking for. There's still enough Marines to deal with these lings too, so Mihu's in a fine position, and there's the third base. It's going to be on the low ground though.
Yeah, going to be on the low ground, which means it could be potentially tough to defend. You can't just lurker egg and then hope that it's going to survive from there, which means air control is going to need to be maintained. We do have, so Sziky's still testing the front door, still looking for room to maybe pick off an SCV or here or there. But the Mutalisks are on the way, and let's see what he can get done after this. There's kind of a small window where, there's going to be fewer Marines, a lot of territory to cover, the Zerglings pressuring the front, so he might be able to get something done. But this is where, in my opinion, he needs to win the match. And if he doesn't win it in this space right here, I think Mihu is just going to out-macro him and end up running him over.
Well, I think we heard the scans go off, right? And look at this. 4 barracks, no cancel this time. Why? So I really do think it's because he did not see third hatch in the main, so he knows it's out on the map somewhere. So he wants to put a lot of pressure onto that third base. Even just forcing, 3 or 4 sunkens at the third base is a win for him. He doesn't necessarily have to kill it. Just force drones to not be mining. Wasted minerals on sunkens. For now, the Muta's come.
Mutas come up, but there was already a 4th hatchery drop behind us, so Sziky maybe looking to not dedicate Mutas, maybe go for more of a macro play here.
Yeah, Mutas coming in have not gotten much damage to the SCV line at all. I think only a single Marine has died. So far, Sziky not getting the kills that he was looking for. However, that depot could be annoying, can use that to splash the Marines, and that will add up in damage, and over time, Marines could start dying.
But yeah, Sziky looks like he wants to just go ahead and use these to maintain map control to pin Mihu in. Mihu in the meantime is going to have +1 weapons, and he's going to be able to bully his way around. Hydra will stand behind this. In base 4th hatchery. Some drones transferring just straight on the ground to go left. So yeah, Sziky wants to transfer into a macro game. And yeah, I'm just not confident in his ability to macro, to out macro Mihu straight up.
Lings did not really do much there at all. Sziky is going to be pushed back by this small Marine ball, but he's got to do something to this Marine ball because this is nothing. This is just 12 Marines, and there's 4 racks production. Eventually, there's going to be like 2 groups, and unless he can get lurkers out, I don't see this army being stopped. I think Sziky has stopped building mutas and is in fact just switching into lurkers right now, but that could be a misstep. Okay, a couple more mutas coming out. He desperately needs them to buy time.
Yeah, he needs to buy himself a good amount of time here, especially with that bottom left-hand corner being on the low ramp. I don't know if that was spotted by Mihu or not. Hasn't dropped any sunken colonies, and it looks like, yeah, he's just moving around with his mutalists, trying to keep position and containment, but Mihu's really not troubled by this at all. He knows he has +1 weapons. He knows he's kind of... I would feel comfortable if I was Mihu here. You got +1 weapons, you got a lot of Marines up, you got your 4 racks up, and you're starting to move into the mid-game that you know is your bread and butter.
Well, he does find the third base at bottom left. I did notice that the medics are almost all completely out of energy. Just one of them has like 25 to 30 energy, and that could be hard for Mihu to deal with if he does stem or overstem. He picks off, what was that, 2 mutalists right there? So nicely done. But still, the Marine ball is so big, it's at like 24 right now. And there's not much defense. Luckily, lurkers are gonna, I think, complete in time.
And Mihu, yeah, I think he's just not as comfortable in this style of play. So now moving up and trying to engage the mutalisks, but he's having trouble picking off the... So +1 weapons is there now for Sziky, but you can just see it. He's a little bit less comfortable. He's still barreling forward. He's still getting room ground, but some medics have been picked off. There's only 1 medic worth this grouping, which means Sziky can actually get a lot done with these mutalisks now.
Yeah, and that buys Sziky a lot of time. Medics, you cannot lose them at all. All of a sudden, it makes your army so weak. And now the mutas may even contemplate just going for a counterattack to the natural. Lurkers are in position. There's no way that Mihu's going to try to engage that. There's 2 lurkers at bottom left too. So now, mutas should have free reign over this mineral line.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to engage. There are 4 turrets here. They're just going to go ahead and ignore Marines engaging. It looks like they're 1 SCV going to get picked up that was building something. He sees the double starports and getting some good scouting information. SCV's dying left and right here. +1 weapons means these turrets are rather fragile and can get picked off rather rapidly, but Sziky just doing a flyover. Lost a bunch of mutalisks. There are lurkers here in the bottom left. Let's see if Mihu jumps on top of this.
No, there's no way you can do that. That's 3 lurkers, dude. Yeah, he loses 8 Marines and gets nothing out of it. Doesn't even pop a sunken, doesn't pop a single lurker. And if we look at supply, it's a supply lead for Sziky with a 3rd base, with a 3rd gas, and he can take a 4th base and 4th gas quite easily. So this is pretty much the dream scenario for him going into mid game. He's in a prime position to actually have a very strong mid-late game versus Mihu, but we know Mihu is so beastie in the late game.
What's unusual is I almost feel like Mihu's feeling a bit indecisive. Usually it felt like with that 2 racks open play, he just felt more comfortable and was more decisive. Right now it seems like he's almost indecisive as where he wants to position a lot of these Marines, and a lot of them walking in a straight line, which means they're going to be mutalist fodder. So mutalist getting picked off, that was kind of a bit of luck. on Mihu's part. They do have +1 weapons, so they can shred through those Minos fairly rapidly. But Mihu regathering, he's had some trouble engaging here. He really hasn't committed at any location. He's just been engaging these Mutalisks in open field, and that's honestly, I feel like playing a little bit of Zyky's game. Zyky adding some Zerglings to this army now, and it looks like he is going to be in a position, to be in a strong game. And where I was kind of faulting Zyky's macro earlier, now he's actually in a really solid spot, so proving me wrong.
Yeah, we see that there is no mass Rax flood. It should have come in by now if he was going to go into 7 barracks. There's no commands. Oh, there's a drop at the top middle. It might get intercepted. I don't know if Zyky knows about it or not. It's just barely out of vision. He does spot it now, though.
That's a lot of troops that are potentially going to get annihilated by these Mutalisks. It looks like a lot of them are going to be able to get drop, and actually a huge amount of Mutalisks between that drop getting softened up and or exterminated. So now you have 6 Mutas that are very weak. There's still those dropships in position to maybe get something done, but Defilers are on the field. We have an Ultralisk Cavern as well. I think Swarm's finished. I don't see okay, there is a Defiler there on the front, so it looks like there's plenty to defend, and Mihu has not touched anything on Zyky's side of the map.
Yeah, and as a Terran, you're not feeling confident in your position, especially when you see a 4th base is pretty much being taken for free, and you have done almost no damage to Zerg at all. So he needs this drop to at least deny the 4th base and buy him some time, because as I stated, there's no Rax flood, there's no command center. He's got to do something here. Maybe he can draw the lurkers out of position and bust this 3rd base. I don't think the Marines have been spotted at the 3rd. Okay, now they have, obviously, within creep.
Oof, this is going to be tough because Zyky's going to have to defend this. There's also the drop at the main of this expansion. Another drone getting assaulted. So now Mihu doing a lot to go ahead and deny additional resources. Some Zerglings going to go ahead and try to run in here with Swarm. That they should be able to clean this up. Let's see if Mihu does some nice micro to go ahead and back this up. But I think these are now, these are now adrenal. Well, no, not adrenal upgraded yet. It's hard to tell sometimes with that. I think they are. So backing that up, but Mihu has not yet grabbed a 3rd. I don't see additional Rax flood behind this. He doesn't have, and critically, he doesn't have the science vessels that are just floating overhead and irradiating everything and kind of getting those free pickoffs. But it looks like there's another drop making its way towards the main. The Mutalisks are all there to completely shut that down this time.
Yeah, now I'm not sure what's going on at bottom right. Okay, that's a command center, so that's going to be the 3rd base for Mihu, but that is so far away. If Zyky gets a whiff of it, he can just send even like 1 lurker, a Defiler, and a couple Lings and shut that down. There's still so many lurkers set up at the natural. Not that many vessels, it's just 3 at the 13-minute mark. So Zyky can eat these irradiates and be fine, accept the lurker losses, and just go about his way taking a 4th base. His econ's amazing. I mean, he's got what's that, 3 macro hatches and 4 bases?
And it looks like he's now going to, as an afterthought, go ahead and grab that top left. Or that bottom left, and with that, both of those dropships gone, he's going to feel a lot safer doing so because he doesn't have to worry about that kind of counterattack. And that also chopped into the science vessel count. Mihu was able to field. This feels like a little bit later 3rd. His mains. I don't know how his main's doing, but at least in the supply count, Mihu is up. But I still feel like Zyky's in a really good position.
We do have vessel is going to get taken down by one of the Scourge. I think Mihu's now double expanding, taking his mineral only. More barracks coming down for him. Haven't seen it. Oh, that's a ton of blue going to bottom right. That's a dead base. See you later. There's only 4 Marines for defense, so that's going to be a canceled command center or a lifted command center. I would say luckily he at least will be able to lift it off and send it back home. But nicely done from Zyky denying this additional gas income from Mihu.
And Zyky's also building some of that minerals. I'm just waiting for Ultralisk to start getting fielded here. It looks like there's some additional radiates being dropped to try to shoot through this bottom left-hand corner. The Nidus is there, though, and Zyky has enough of economy where he's just replenishing that without a lot of trouble. You're right. And he just doesn't care. Finally, an additional base being built. It looks like at that inside, usually the typical inside 3rd. I'm wondering if Mihu is thinking, well, maybe I'll try to sneak a base this time in the bottom right. Ooh, are we going to see a plague right here? Nice spread there from Mihu to kind of avoid together. It looks like Zyky thinking better of it. But right now as things stand, Mihu's like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and try to macro, and I'm just going to out-macro over the long term. But it feels like that 3rd base was late. It feels like his economy was just a little bit later. It just feels like he's playing uncomfortable in this match.
Yeah, Mihu needs to get control of this game or go for a doom drop like he's doing right here, because 17 minutes, that's when the ultras hit. And we are approaching that minute mark. We're at 15.5 minutes. I already saw +2 armor kicked in for Zerg. So that means the ultras are going to have at least +4 armor when they actually start moving out.
And the Zerglings flooding out, but this is we'll see if he can thread this. He needs to be careful having that army loaded and also trying to defend a lot of this territory. Some Zerglings there. It looks like a Defiler in position, maybe to drop a plague. The Science Vessel's moving right in front of the Scourge. The Scourge landing on one. One pops, two pops. A nice Dark Swarm drop as well. So now those drop ships, looks like they're going to thread behind this, but are they going to back up and help defend? Or they might need to come back and defend this third.
Well, I don't think he can afford to come back and defend this third base. He needs to shut down the fourth. Like, he needs to do crippling amounts of damage, because this is when Zerg gets scary. This is when you see the non-stop flood, like what we're seeing right here. More Lings and more Ultras moving across the map. Mihu's got to do something, though. Those dropships at bottom right, whether they're coming back to defend or just going for a counterattack, they need to make a move. They can't just sit at bottom right, because the Ling Ultra Flood, it's going to be never ending. Here comes even more.
Okay, finally those drop ships moving, and I think that's going to get spotted as it moves across the 6 o'clock location. Let's see if Sziky reacts in time. Never mind, it's going to reposition. Let's see where it goes. That drop, that could be Mihu's. I got to say, Sziky's in the lead. Let's see if he's... Oh, man, all these Ultralisks, all these Zerglings, and a Defiler at the natural expansion, which means, ooh, this is going to be devastating. And now those drop ships going to unload bottom left. So is that going to be sufficient? Is he going to be able to get enough out of those dropships? And is Sziky going to respond to this in time?
Look at that clutch SV placement on the ramp, but it doesn't matter. The Lings... Oh, and the Lurkers are set up to prevent these units from reinforcing. This is perfection from Sziky, and the drop is going to shut down bottom left. But this is not the biggest deal, because the third base is still up and running for Sziky. What is a huge deal is Mihu's about to lose his entire main.
It looks like some of the Ultralisks going to regroup, try to deal with bottom left, but there's still Zerglings and Ultralisks in the main. There's an irradiated Ultralisk actually killing SCVs. That's a clever little bunker to try to defend it. Mutalisk's now going to deal with those dropships, and it looks like Sziky maybe not even going to lose this hatchery down here, as the Ultralisks and Zerglings are cleaning up this hatchery. Mihu is now in a desperate situation. His natural expansion is gone. A lot of stuff's on fire at his main. His SCVs are just watching these Ultralisks obliterate everything. And so Sziky proving me wrong, they're Mihu calling GG. And so for all of my talk of like Mihu backering Sziky, here Mihu being very indecisive and like honestly playing somewhat out of his game. It just felt like in the mid game he just couldn't dedicate one direction or another, and Sziky capitalizing it and showing some brutal macro of his own.
Yeah, now that's what we were looking for from Sziky. We know his macro's impeccable in ZVP, and now he's finally shown it in ZVT. And I just have to say, like, the vessel count was just too low. Like, 13 minutes, you need more than 3. You just gotta have more than that, because Zerg, like, Defilers are out, they're starting to take fourth bases. They can eat 3 irradiates and not care. And he also didn't have the Rax production. Like, it was just too slow from Mihu.
Let me get your thoughts on this. I feel like go for that early dropship, because it does cut into your science vessel count. You need to get something out of that dropship.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a dedication right there. Mihu, all the dropships, it felt like across the board got shut down, except for maybe that one drop in bottom left at a certain point in time. But Sziky, yeah, controlling it. And I almost want to say that Sziky kind of played his standard game and controlled it top to bottom. But it was Mihu who more, I felt like, flubbed that. And I'm wondering if he was expecting more of the early Mutalisk aggression, and so he's trying to adjust his game kind of pre-meta and go for that engineering bay sort of play, but he just doesn't feel as comfortable. He doesn't look Mihu-like when he's going for that early eBay build. So I wonder if he's actually going to move back towards just the standard 2 Rax Academy style.
Yeah, 2 Rax is pretty much the build to go for these days with the fast academy. It can prevent a Zerg from taking a fast third base. But Sziky, after seeing game 2 and seeing the eBay, I guess now is thinking, okay, well, you know, in Terran versus Protoss, you play 4-fact almost every single game. Terran versus Zerg, maybe you're going to do the same thing and just play this eBay opener every time, and well, fast third base, eBay opener can't shut that down. So he gets away with the third base. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for it again, but I think Mihu definitely needs to go 2 Rax here, because he cannot let Sziky get the third base, third gas up and running. And I agree, the dropships are a mistake. A lot of players like drops. I am not a big fan of drops. To me, it feels like you must do damage. Otherwise, you're either giving your lead away and it's now even, or you're giving a huge lead to the opponent. Because once the drops are gone, there's no irradiate, like I said. Everything's slower. Like, there's no pressure anymore. There's no potential bust at your natural anymore. So, I think Mihu needs to just go back to what has always worked for all the Chinese Terran players, even Xuan. Just build vessels nonstop and irradiate this guy to death.
Yeah, Mihu looked dominant in the semifinal, just doing the standard 2-Rex flood that he is known for. And he just, honestly, was a very convincing 3-0 sweep. So go back to basics, I say, and try to see if Sziky can beat you in heads-up macro, which, I still think the answer to that is no. And in this last match, I'm not sure if Sziky as much won it. It felt like Sziky just kind of went about his standard game as much as Mihu dropped it and being kind of indecisive and having some, drops that didn't end up working. It feels like he's trying to play out of his standard style, even though his standard style beats Sziky. But now that he's down 1-2, let's see if he goes back into this and just goes for a quick move from there.
Our fourth map is going to be Monopoly. Players are ready. Let's get right into our game. Right in the bottom middle, our Chinese Terran, it is Mihu.
And in the top left-hand corner, as the blue Zerg, we have Sziky.
Yeah, so I think it's imperative that Mihu wins here. And the reason I say that is because if Sziky goes up 3-1, look at the remaining maps. We've got Ascension. That's a good Zerg map. There's a lot of potential for drops, like Hydra Lurker drop. I know players like Soma even like to go for that. It's annoying for Terran to deal with. Mihu doesn't like to build tanks, so a move like that could be devastating on Ascension. Then we have Eclipse. Zerg is fine on Eclipse. And then Multiverse is just a weird map. I mean, you don't know how much experience any of these players have on that map. So I think if Sziky goes up 3-1, he's got a good shot of winning one of the last remaining 3 maps. So I think for sure Mihu must win here. And he's got a good map choice. Monopoly is great for Terran versus Zerg.
Yeah, that's what I was going to comment is this feels like it's a strong, not only is it a stronger map for, I think, Terran versus Zerg, I think it fits very well because you have that additional mineral patch in the main and it's more of a macro-oriented map. And I don't feel like this is one of those maps that Sziky is going to be able to, and you have kind of a protected natural expansion to a degree. So I feel like it's not one of those maps where you can just bowl things over once again.
Well, that SCV, what's it up to? Okay, just going to be building the barracks in a normal position. Meanwhile, Sziky, that is an overpool opener for him. So this time around, he wants to be somewhat aggressive.
We'll see how many Zerglings he produces off of this. I'm not sure I like this. I would have almost rather him gone for a 9-pool if he was going to go for one of the more aggressive openers. But overpool's fine. It's kind of the middling thing. Looks like he is sending out an initial drone scout. It's going to end up scouting the later position. The Overlord might catch this SCV to at least see it coming out of the base to know positioning here. I think it did catch, catches the edge. So now he knows the location, so he can bring that drone back home. But that SCV also saw the Overlord, so it's going to know to go to the upper left-hand corner first. Should see the ones as they come, and Mihu should be, honestly, I expect him to be in a good position to defend.
Well, I don't know about this opener from Sziky. I'm a bigger fan of gas follow-up if you're going to go for overpool because it still allows you to get mutas out. But this is going to be a 3rd hatch with an overpool opener, and the bunker is going to be up in time. So these lings are not going to do any damage. I would say luckily this is Monopoly where he can take the top right base on high ground, and that should be a secured base. Kind of play it like how a lot of pros play Eclipse. But Mihu does confirm no gas, so he already knows what's going on.
SCV's damage, that bunker has been confirmed as well. Let's see if Sziky still tries to go for a run by, because we know Sziky likes doing that. Now grabbing that gas at the 3-minute mark. And the SCV actually, I think it wants to go ahead and confirm. I mean, he can't just assume it's up in that corner. And single Zergling being lazy in the background. Come on, Zergling. Command center now being planted for Mihu. And we're moving into, standard mid-game. But I actually kind of like Sziky taking that 3rd base up at that location, again, because of just how mineral heavy this map is.
Well, now that I'm seeing the base that he took with the mid-right base being on high ground, I think I do like this more. If he had taken another main, I hate it. I don't know how you could ever defend it with Sunkens. Your mutas are going to be too late. Your lurkers are going to be too late. But this base, much safer. And there we go. We finally see 2 racks follow-up. I love it. I don't think this is necessarily just because he knows there's the 3rd hatch, but probably also because he's just had such good success versus Sziky last season going into the 2 racks academy play.
Really against every Zerg that I've seen. Like I'm not sure if I've seen Mihu drop a game with this build yet. So, and I think it also plays well against what Sziky typically does. So granted, Sziky won the last game macro, but if feel like Zyky's MO is getting those backstabs, getting those Zerglings into his opponent's space, being very frustrating in that regard, particularly in the early game. And then, out just having incredible Mutalist micro and play from there, which puts him in a strong position as he's going into the mid game. Here, the Zergling's going to go ahead and camp outside the natural expansion. But I like, Mihu going for that 2-Rax play. And we'll see if he just goes into... This feels like default mode for him. And that's the thing, though, is his default mode is like a wrecking ball.
But again, this Academy is not super fast. I realize this was an overpool opener, but this is still like a 410 Academy. This is not exceptionally quick, where Zyky's not going to have a decent drone count by the time Mihu moves out. I mean, you can see he already has 2 drones set up at top right. He'll be able to put down 2 Sunkens and be completely safe. And Spire's already started.
Spire's already started. There are a good amount of Marines on the front, but that, it feels like Stim's going to be coming out a little bit later than Mihu might have wanted. He's not going to have +1 weapons, which means that those Mutalisks could be a little bit stronger on the field. There are going to be more Marines on the ground to help deal with it. So we'll see what Mihu can get done out of this, if he even wants to apply pressure. I like the Mutalist play here from Zyky. It's going to definitely cover that right-hand base, but I also like the Zerglings out in the field, just in case. I'm almost wondering if Mihu moves out, we'll see if these Zerglings are going to survive. I kind of like keeping these Zerglings pocketed and hidden around, potentially to jump on these Medic Marines as they come out at some point later mid-match once the Mutalisks are fielded. No, he's going to go for a backstab.
Yep, that is a good play. He's going to not get any SCVs, maybe get like 1. Wow, okay, he just gets 1, so really good defense from Mihu. It does buy Zyky some time to get his Sunkens up. Scan going off, we do see that the Spire's about to finish. What I'm noticing is there's no evolution chamber. A lot of times we see pro players go into fast evolution chamber and go into ultralist style, but not the case from Zyky, or at least he's not opted to build the evolution chamber just yet. Stimming across the map, this is ample style. I don't think he's going to make it in time, though. Well, maybe he will.
I don't know. The third Sunken is that's what I was going to comment, is I don't think these Sunkens are going to be in time. There's the Mutalisks aren't here, the Zerglings aren't here. So it looks like Mihu's going to end up winning this very, very rapidly, is that third Sunken getting wiped out. And that's a quick GG. That's what I was looking at. I'm like, okay, no Mutalist. A bunch of Zerglings. Those Zerglings are sacrificed at the natural expansion. So now that natural expansion's gone, and Zyky dropping the match right there. Oof. And that's a hard way to lose, too. Just not having your Sunken colonies morphed in time.
Yeah,
he had the Sunken colonies there. It's just didn't. Yeah, he needed to respond a little bit faster. I got to say, heads up on Mihu to know to just stim and run across and get it done.
Yeah, and he even bought time with the link, so I thought, okay, for sure, there's no way that any type of Marine Medic attack could work, whether it's at the nat or the third base, but I guess Monopoly rush distance is closer than I thought, and the stim across the map, ample style, puts a win on the board, and now we've got another tied series. It was very important that Mihu won there, because as I stated, the next 3 maps, Ascension, Eclipse, and Multiverse, and those are a bit unique, to say the least.
We got a fantastic day of StarCraft right now. We've got like 2 amazing sets going on. I was expecting it to be a little bit more one-sided, one direction or the other from either opener, but Mihu, a couple things. And that Mihu opening 2 racks, I think that is just his more comfortable style. I think he's got more variations out of that. He obviously has more, I don't know, he just looked more confident in that. He was like, okay, I know the timing on this, moving forward with the stim, catching Zyky off guard, able to close out that match rather rapidly. Getting I think you're right, a necessary win as we're moving into these next matches. But we got a series, because these next 3 maps, I think they might be a little bit more Zyky favored. And so why don't what we're going to do is we're going to go into a break really fast, and then we're going to pick right back up. Well, and this is, it's been a fantastic day of StarCraft. Stay tuned.
lost. There's always a hope. Rise and fight.
We are back, and we are about to go into Game 5, which is going to be on Ascension. Another good series on our hands. It's 2-2 already. We already had probably the best PvP I've ever seen, just flat out, not just in BSL, between Dawid and John-Hoon. But we're getting an epic series between Mihu and Sziky right now. Sziky impressed us on good night, but Mihu striking back with a nice medic push, catching Sziky off guard. Now we're going into Ascension, which I think is it can be weird at times, especially if you get good spawns for drops.
Yeah, Ascension, one of those areas where, yeah, big areas to drops. I feel like lurkers can be really critical, especially hold position lurkers at those gaps, which I actually think I kind of want to see that. I almost want to see like a quick hold position lurker play from Sziky if he can pull it off, because I think that actually could work well against Mihu's style, where Mihu likes just move big, because he keeps his units so cohesive as they're moving across the map, where it's just like lurker bait sometimes. But yeah, right now though, Mihu settling back on that 2 racks play, he's looked more comfortable and definitely getting it. It's frustrating that you were mentioning that you're mad in the break here, because you can't drop games to Mihu like that. And I think you're absolutely right that like Mihu at the moment, to me, looks mortal. He looks like he is beatable. Sziky, hopefully the nerves are, I almost want to chalk up game 1, game 2 to nerves more than his inability to macro, because I've seen him macro well before, particularly in his ZVP and a lot of other matchups. So I know he can be a macro beast. And it felt like, I don't know, game 3 might have been one of those ones where he was settling back in. But that last match, I don't know if it's nerves or what. He had all the minerals. He had everything. I was kind of waiting for you to call the late sunken colony. But late sunken's just, it's frustrating. That's a terrible way to lose a match.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking because you're like, well, I got everything that I wanted. I got my 3rd base, took no damage, even the Lings buy time. So to lose in that way, you're just like, man, how did I lose like that? And we are going into Game 5.
There we go.
It is Ascension. Players are ready. Let's get into Game 5. Okay, in the top middle with the Dream spawn, it is Mihu.
And in the bottom left, we have Sziky as the red Zerg.
Yeah, and this time around, it's going to be Mihu with the drop advantage. You can see the angle for him pathing into main. He has a direct shot, whereas drop path for Sziky, not exactly the most ideal, but I guess with Muta, I guess he could still be okay drop path.
I think if Sziky was, I almost wonder if Mihu was spawning in Ziki's place, if he would just go for the all-in Mutalisk sort of play. I got to give you credit though, Nyoken. You've been casting a ton of games today, and you're still rolling. So people send Nyoken your energy, because this is like turning into an incredible epic series between these guys. We already had a game 7 match in PvP. He also casted ASL earlier today. Be sure to check those games up as soon as they're up and available if you haven't watched them already. But this is a lot of casting out of Nyoken. And,
it's testing my limits, to say the least, because last night I streamed for 5 hours, and then I slept for 3 hours and woke up for ASL. Then I slept a little bit. Now here I am with BSL. It's been like, I don't know, 10 hours or like 12 hours of StarCraft in the past 16 hours for me. It's just an insane amount of StarCraft. But the games have been fantastic so far. Keeps me going. And I'm hoping
great games.
Yeah.
Try to carry the energy here. It looks like that's going to be a 12th hatch from Sziky. And we'll see what Mihu does this time. I really hope to not see that engineering bay play once again.
I want to see Sziky build additional drones. Okay, did he finally do it? No, he has not built additional drones. Like we've noticed from Mihu, every game, there's not been early aggression with Marines. There's not an 8 racks. I would really like to see him play hero-esque, like the Zerg hero, where he builds like up to 13 supply with drones and then builds his pool. Like, because there's no pressure for Mihu. Like, he's not doing anything to you. He's just content, just letting you play your own thing, and then him also playing his own thing and just beating you in the mid game. So I really wish Sziky would do something like that. We're not going to see it in this game because, again, it's another 210 extractor timing.
Looks like Sziky is going to get first scout with that drone. And it looks like the SCV going in and getting first scout as well. Drone versus SCV battle might be able to get a little bit of disruption at the natural expansion, but it looks like he's going to go ahead and back out behind that. So yeah, not really any timing wasted there. Spawning pool on the way. Yeah, honestly, the other factor here is Mihu, at least in last match, I don't know what to say. Sziky, I don't feel like Ziki's playing up to his potential. That's kind of my frustration in these matches as well, because I know Sziky can macro better than this. And I know Mihu has an amazing macro, but I feel like Ziki's been playing below his capacity, at least that I've seen where he's been playing recently. And I'm wondering if that's nerves, and maybe that's settled out or not.
Well, we've got another fast gas, so this is going to be another eBay opener. Could still be delayed mech, but nope, that is an eBay follow-up. So again, Mihu really wants to rush that +1, not going to go into the fast 2 racks. Now, did he get a gauge on how many links are produced? It is just 5, and I don't think 5 will beat this amount of Marines. Could be wrong, though.
And I don't think they'll actually hope Sziky. That's the other thing Ziky's been doing. He's been kind of suiciding a lot of these units in, even attempting the run by. One thing that can be very devastating is a Ling Flood mid-game if you can take out that Marine. So hopefully backs off with that. But especially if you can get Mulisks and Zerglings in combination at the natural expansion, I think there is opportunity to do something like that and really get a quick win where you don't have to worry about long-term macro games against Mihu's really strong macro style.
Well, we do see that a bunker went up for Mihu, and versus a 2 racks opener, that is actually a win for you as Zerg, because it stalls your academy timing. If you don't stall your academy timing, you're cutting SCVs. So in Ziky's mind, he may have thought he got a victory with the bunker, but because this is an eBay opener, doesn't really stall much for Mihu, because again, it's still just going to be another 4-minute academy for him.
Looks like we have second gas for Sziky online. It looks like he is migrating out to potentially grab that nearby third. The Zerglings have done a pretty good job, actually, of denying additional scouts out on this space. It looks like they're still testing that front. The Play Depot now in front to add that extra layer of protection. When you do have fewer Marines out of this build, you just have fewer troops to work with. And that's what I'm hoping Sziky can capitalize on. If he can get some Mutalisks out in the front and dive into this, he does have really strong Mutalisk play. You end up with fewer Marines, and there's kind of that gap before +1 weapons comes online. And it's like but that's the thing for Mihu. If he can weather that, that's the turnaround is you can really shut down Mulisk as far as a follow-up as long as you have the micro there. Unfortunately, I don't feel like Mihu has like Gypsy's level of Marine versus Muta Micro that I've seen.
Well, so far, he's done a good job versus the Mutas, except for I guess that Butter game. I mean, he still won that game, but the Mutas did a crippling amount of damage in that particular game. Now, this third base from Sziky is kind of open. Like, you can hit from the right side, you can hit from the high ground. You can even, I guess, move to the natural and then swoop in from the left side. So, kind of an open third base. I don't know how easy this is for Sziky to defend. I'm curious if he will just all-in Muta here. But that drone was setting up to build something already. Might have been the Hydra Den.
Looks like there's going to be a Hydralisk Den potentially to roll back over. It looks like I like what Mihu's doing, going ahead and clearing those eggs right now. The Mutalisks are incoming. Let's see what Sziky can get done. Looks like there's already turret in place at the natural expansion, but there's just going to be a fewer amount of Marines to try to defend against this Mutaflop.
Well, this is 3 racks tech. I think the factory's actually almost done already. So he's not only gotten +1 weapon, it is done. So that was like a 530 factory while also getting +1 weapon, while also getting an academy. So he's going into very fast tech to deal with this Muta play. For now, the SCV or the Mutas have gotten a couple SCVs. Still no range on these Marines. Keep that in mind. So Sziky trading very, very effectively.
6 Marines taking a bit of damage. That turret just sitting under turret fire, still picking off additional SCVs, getting a lot of damage done. And this, again, I just wish Sziky would pull the trigger and just go a little bit more aggressive with his Mutalisks early. I feel like he could win some matches that way.
Fast Queen's Nest with the Hydra Den. So this is probably just going to be normal Defiler follow-up. Not going to be all-in Mutas. And this is actually going to be a good choice for him because Aaron's scaling into tanks and vessels, and you need fast Defiler to stop a tank push.
And hopefully it'll be there in time. The Mutal is still just going to be the 6 Mutals kind of testing around that corner. 3 turrets now at the natural expansion for Mihu to go ahead and repel this. We have an in-base 4th hatchery again.
Turret's in a nice position for Mihu. He's not taking much damage at all, really, other than the couple of Marines he lost at the natural and the couple SCVs. Looks like the main is kind of turret tight or Muta tight, not letting anything in. And Sziky should know now, like, okay, you're not moving out at all. I only see 3 Marines or 3 racks. This is definitely going to be some type of fast tech. He doesn't know that this is actually going to be a tank push, though. So he does need to be careful.
He really needs to cycle those Mutalisks behind the edge. It's critical if you can get those Mutalisks on top of that siege tank when they're separated from the Marines to go ahead and pick that off. However, this is kind of one of Mihu's strengths, is just keeping that cohesive ball and really protecting troops. Is that a 5th hatchery I saw back in there in the main? But so additional troops, so never mind, double evolution chamber is what we had earlier, and then an additional 4th hatchery. We'll see if Sziky's in a position to go ahead and defend this. He does need to keep those Mutalisks alive and healthy. He's got +1 weapons moving to the main. There's that siege tank behind, and now it's going to be, can Mihu protect that all the way walking towards that natural expansion or that 3rd base?
We do have the first few lurkers being morphed. Evolution chambers seem quite fast for this build, especially since he has an open 3rd base, but we'll see if he can actually get into mid and late game. Can he fend off the tank attack? If he can, then his upgrades are going to be fantastic going into mid game. Okay, we talked about hold position lurkers earlier. Can he find a good sweet spot for them on the high ground here?
Oh, I like this for Sziky. I like this, Sziky. Hopefully this is hold position, and I don't think he's going to shoot that gap because he's got that siege tank. So he's going to, I assume, move across this edge, and oh, this is going to be perfect. Sees it because of the science vessel, so going to go ahead and back off, but this is also buying time for Sziky behind this to go ahead and get those defilers out. And Mihu, with this siege tank science vessel attack, he wanted to rush through and do some damage to the base. He cut a lot of corners to get in this position, and right now Sziky doing a great job of repelling it.
Yeah, and all you have to do as Zerg versus this particular strategy that Terran's facing is buy time. He's already bought, what, something like 30 seconds, and he forces an irradiate out.
Forces an irradiate.
Yeah.
Great split as well. So these lurkers just going to hold, and this is great positioning from Sziky as well, where they're just kind of holding that ramp, and Sziky just kind of, honestly, I feel like he's going to be relegated to maybe just grabbing his 3rd. He's still trying to find position, but the Mutalisks are still doing a great job. They're still alive. They've pecked away at one of the science vessels. Now those tanks sieging up, and Sziky, I think he's bought the time he needed.
Oh yeah, for sure he bought the time he needed. These lurkers, maybe he's going to lose 1 or 2 of them, but Defiler's going to have consumed for sure. There's 1 less irradiate out now. The irradiate is kind of the big issue here. If you can pop the first Defiler, it doesn't matter really how many lurkers there are. You're just going to push through with the tanks. So nicely done from Sziky there to buy a lot of time.
And I think he kept some of those Mutalisks alive. Well, I didn't see them around the corner. Yeah, so those are still potentially units that can swing around, pick off the siege tanks if the Marines get stranded out somewhere. Mihu now barreling down. There's another grouping of lurkers right there to potentially engage. Let's see if Mihu wants to get something accomplished with this, with that 4th base up and coming. But there's the lurkers. The Marines going to have to back off. Nice troop movement on Mihu to only lose 3 Marines there. But now, yeah, he's got to re-engage. He's got to rethink and re-engage. He's got that 2nd starport up to try to get some more science vessels out in the field. But Sziky in a great position now, moving into the mid game.
Well, those tanks really did not work out at all, and now Mihu is repositioning to the 4th base. He may be able to shut this down because the lurkers are way out of position. This is a dead base, and there's not much lurkers. I mean, there's only 4, and you saw them in the center of the map. So that's a dead 4th base, so nicely done from Mihu. We did see that it is double starport follow-up behind, so Mihu is still going to commit to SK Terran here with just a couple tanks supporting it. But the science facility is lifted, so it's not BCs, it is just pure vessels.
And there's some Hydralisks underneath this that it looks like getting a lot of good damage. +1 weapons, +1 armor as well. So it's kind of that Hydra switch. I think Sziky can afford to lose that 4th base currently. He's got a lot of tech to run behind this. And Mihu, he had that 4th that got interrupted, so it slowed down his additional base as well. So right now, though, Mihu being Mihu, look at that supply count. He's got 134 versus 93. So Sziky has all the components to fight this. Now he's walking uphill, just attacking straight into the Marine. Gets the science vessel, and he's now under that swarm to help defend as well. So, and continuing to swarm forward and pick away at these Marines.
Yeah, and this is not a fight you see often. It's Hydras versus Marine Medic under Dark Swarm. Hydras need to back off, though. He's going to morph into a Lurker. Now, if Zerg is going to play this style, Terran needs to build tanks. You cannot beat this with BC. You cannot beat this with vessels. If you play Bio, you will lose this as long as there's no catastrophic damage from something like a drop. So Mihu needs to be very diligent on his tank production.
We got another 2 dropships moving out. It's going to load up those Marines. I think that's going to give another... Oh, and they're going to walk right into the Mutalisk block. What was going on with Mihu there? And while there's that distraction, Sziky going to capitalize on this. Run forward, going to completely obliterate everything else. Looks like the Mutalisk's got a little bit out of control, maybe attacking the science vessels unloaded across there. But now Sziky looking to get aggressive and potentially going to threaten that third.
Well, he might just outright win this game. That is a ton of stuff. If there's a single Defiler here, there's no counterplay to it. Here comes the drop. Lings and Lurkers moving into position. He needs that Defiler with the army, though. He doesn't have Consume. He doesn't have the energy just yet. We saw a Greater Spire being morphed. He knows that Terrans love to go into tanks with an opener like this. So he's going to try and morph Guardians behind the third base. I think that's fantastic. That's a great Defiler. Great Dark Swarm, I mean. But the Hydra Den might fall, the spawning pool might fall, but he's not paying attention. He's not focusing anything. That Plague hit the majority of the army.
Let's see if the Hydrals actually can go up and tap these Marines, but there's been Guardians morphed over that third. There's still a decent amount of Marines for Mihu who's able to take out the Hydralist Den at this stage, but that drop has been cleaned up, and everything's been wiped out at Mihu's third. The Guardians, they're getting out of position, though. Those should be quick cleaned up. That's unfortunate, because they could have been a really strong position just to constantly harass, pick off some Marines, do some additional damage. Additionally, it looks like one Mutalisk that should be a cancel, but it looks like it's just going to get wiped out. But there's also a swarm of Hydralisks and Lurkers underneath. It looks like without Defiler support.
Yeah, and this is exactly why even building a couple of Guardians is fantastic in a scenario like this. You force out all the Irradiates. They can't even get hit. If you build Wraith, well, the guy already has Hydra, so those aren't going to help you at all. This is amusing to see the bottom right main being taken while Zerg is taking the bottom right natural. But Zerg's Econ is running rampant now. He's on 4 bases. He needs a Defiler here. There's a huge difference between Hydra Lurker and Hydra Lurker plus Defiler and Plague.
Looks like the Defiler is meandering up. Sziky continuing to pressure this third base. I think this is kind of just a hidden base for Mihu. Mihu still 40 supply, but now dropping, and he's actually starting to close the gap between the third and the natural expansion. He's reinforcing. My concern, though, is Mihu still staying up on the macro, and Sziky, let's see, this is where he's faltered previously. I think if he can keep up on the macro, keep pressing forward, he will win this match. Just tit for tat, I think he took out those both dropships, so he doesn't have to worry about counterplay. But Mihu with a huge ball, just walking right past this, even though that third has been lifted.
Well, the vessels are ramping up kills onto Lurkers and Guardians, but that army from Terran is not scary as long as there's a Defiler. And remember, he's had double Evolution Chamber for quite a while, so these Zerg units should match the upgrade. The Terran, yeah, they're at 2-2. Also, the Hydras hit like a truck too, and that means Lurkers are going to two-shot everything, even if they have +3 armor.
Mihu trying to move up to go ahead and grab. I think now he's discovered this base, and this might be a trigger to Mihu to go ahead and check out what's happening in that bottom right-hand corner. Kind of clever. Some SCVs are going to transfer across that creep, so at least he's going to see it there. The Marines backing off. This has just gotten extremely chaotic, where you have, Lurkers that are finally getting cleaned up in the upper left. You have attacks that are happening in the bottom right. You have Sziky, who's up on 4 bases. Finally, Mihu able to... I assume Ziki's going to spot this. Some drones morphing right there, so Ziki's got to make some decisions. But Sziky at a pretty good economic position. Mihu still, though, doing what he does. His macro is looking sharp.
Yeah, Zerg needs to start building some more links. He needs more Lurkers, too. Like, he has Hydras, which are amazing, but he needs to hit Plague on top of all these vessels. There's one vessel gone. Can he get a second one? The Radiant goes down, knocks down that Defiler. He needs to just cast Plague on anything. Anything he can possibly hit. Okay, or Dark Swarm is fantastic, too. But these are isolated Hydras that are not under the Dark Swarm. Finally, they're going to get to safety. Mid-right base has not been taken down just yet by those few Marines and medics.
And all too often, when you have Marines and that Defiler dying for free, all too often under Dark Swarm, it just becomes a slap fight with the Marines and the Hydralisk. Looks like that base bottom right was, in fact, wiped out. So Mihu does have 4 bases established. So, and I don't even know who to call in this match anymore, because Mihu, he's scattered everywhere. It looks like Ziki's got a good economy. He's starting to roll into attack bottom right. Mihu still has an attack that could possibly roll in, maybe at the 4 o'clock position, wipe that out. A Nidus Canal coming online to try to reestablish all of this. There is a Defiler alongside. So this could be an interesting pincer situation where, is Sziky going to get everything up in time? That's lifting off from that bottom right. Now, Mihu readjusting is going to attack the 4 o'clock simultaneously.
Yeah, he's trying to take the 4th base, but there's already Sunken, Spore, and Lurker set up. Vessels are going to move off to the side and get a couple of radiates off on some of these hydras and lings. Oh no, they're not just yet. But Mihu's army still is quite fearsome. He's got a 50 supply lead, but his mid-right base has been denied. Main is mined out. Nat should be mined out momentarily. And Sziky's still on 4 bases right now. However, this is a huge army moving on to the high ground. Sziky desperately needs Plague. Like, he hasn't plagued any of the units. Like, Dark Swarm's great, but Plague shuts down all this. Defensive Fire Bat. There's not a single Defiler here.
Not a single Defiler and a huge amount of Science Vessels moving in with the Medic Marines. And now that they've got higher upgrades, they trade much better against the Hydralisk. There's potentially 3 hatcheries that are going to be gone. Some Lurkers, Hydralisks now reinforcing. There is a Defiler with that group. Looks like a Dark Swarm being dropped, but that actually might help out the Marines right there. They're going to pocket to that bottom right-hand corner. The Defiler's still there to roam. Sziky needs to defend this to stay in this match. And I don't know where his Ultralisk Cavern is, or if it's even in the background. It looks like he's mostly sticking on Hydralisk. Play. Defilers continuing to get irradiated. There's a bunch of Defilers, but not a lot of attack troops. Some Hydrals trying to regroup and attack behind this. In the meantime, another drop making its way into the main. It's going to reposition and move to the natural, and there's only Zerglings to try to fight that off.
Yeah, there's Fire Bats unloading. This is the situation, or this is a spot that Mihu needed to drop. There's not any medics though. However, that drop is going to deal a ton of damage. Maybe not. The Lurker's going to try and save the day. Fire Bats are ramping up. A lot of drone kills. Lurker may just barely manage to save the day again in the main. But so many drones have fallen. Look at the supply. Now it's 85 to 160. All of a sudden, Sziky's not in a good shape anymore. He also doesn't have that many banked up resources.
It feels like in the game of chaos, Mihu is harnessing it a little bit more effectively here. He is absolutely everywhere. He still has some stuff floating in bottom right. The 4th base is up and running, but this is, again, Sziky, it feels like his macro is faltering. He's just not able to keep up with Mihu's macro. Mihu currently at double the supply, starting to drop barracks in that bottom right upon re-landing it, and he's marching out another huge army out in the field.
Yeah, and he kept the drop ships alive. That's the key thing here, is keeping those alive so he can come back for another drop. And now look at the army. It's moving all over to top right. Sziky has no idea that this is coming until it's too late, potentially.
And it looks like those Lurkers that were standing in the way gonna get irradiated. Mihu's gonna be able to chew through. There is some units coming out of the Nidus, some Hydrals looking to recounter. There is some Dark Swarm drop to try to support this. Mihu happy to just go ahead and back out though. He's pretty soon he's going to be able to just produce Marines to defend bottom right out of bottom right itself.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that there's actually stuff being built there. And Mihu might actually get this base up and running. He's already got mid left up and running. As I stated, you need tanks versus this comp. And he's got multiple factories up. He hasn't even used any of them. So the tank count is surprisingly high. It's at 6 or 7 right now.
It's pretty in a minute here. I feel like Mihu's going to just start moving into, Bappa base sort of play, because Sziky's been sitting on 4 base for an extremely, just a protracted period of time right now. You got a bunch of siege tanks, you've got those drop ships nearby. I think Mihu's just going to gather in a minute and just start, wiping everything out. Right now, his unit's heavily upgraded. He's reaching 200 supply. He's got a decent amount of science vessels in the air. I don't think Hydra Lurk Defiler is going to cut it here.
Hydra Lurk, I think. Hydra Lurker Ling, I think, is the best comp Zerg has. But you must Plague. You have to Plague. When you Plague these Marines, they get one-shotted by Hydras. They get one-shotted by everything. The fact that there's only Dark Swarm means that Mihu can constantly retreat with his army and save his army every single time. There hasn't been a single Plague all game long. And now look, the Vessels just reign supreme in scenarios like this.
They're just dropping sounds funny saying it that way. The science vessel's dropping acid, going ahead and coating everything in a green cloud to the right-hand corner. A counterattack. This almost feels like a desperation counterattack. There's a lot of Lurkers right there. That is a Dark Swarm and nothing to defend it, but a huge swarm of siege tanks right above this, and a science vessel fleet flying in overhead. So this is going to be lifted off, but I don't think for very long. And I don't know that that's going to give Sziky enough purchase to go ahead and swing this match the other direction.
Yeah, 4th base is fully kicking in for Mihu at bottom right. You can see he already has it defended too. This is another big engagement in the center of the map. Again, there's no Defiler here, not many Lurkers, but that's so many Lings. He may simply overrun it because of how many Lings there are. He's going to wipe out a lot of the supply, but it's still a near max army for Mihu. I'm actually kind of confused. Where is Mihu's actual army? Because we saw he has a decent amount of tanks, but I mean, it's not like it's 30. It's not like it's 40. Where is his actual army? Like, is it just SCVs?
Is it in that dropship? Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that as well, because looking at the supply count, we should see Mihu dominating, walking across the field. Instead, we see Sziky starting to move out in the field, and he's causing trouble absolutely everywhere. I expected to see, honestly, at this stage of the match, looking at the supply count, I was expecting to see just a blue ball kind of walking around, obliterating everything, and instead we're seeing some Hydralisks starting to engage and take over bottom right, and Mihu just retaking with his siege tanks the 9 o'clock position.
That lurker's okay. I thought it was out of range of the tanks. I was like, is it really going to kill the entire SCV line? Now, this is a big deal to lose mid-right because that's a lot of SCVs that will not be saved. However, Sziky is running low on resources. I really realize he still has his main and natural, but those are going to be mined out soon. He does only have 3 bases versus a Terran that has 2 bases still up and running, and the vessel count is still high. So is the tank count.
And this is the other critical thing, is Sziky, since he's got that outside expansion taken, he can go ahead and walk in and recap that third, so it's turning into an interesting split map situation. The main's mined out for Mihu, the natural expansion's mined out for Mihu. He's running on 2 base, and it's essentially kind of turning into 2 base versus 4 base. He still has those drop ships, and I'm wondering if that's where a lot of his units are. Mihu needs to press the supply advantage while he's got it. Instead, he's just kind of let Sziky harass him all over the map and wipe out one of his existing bases.
That's a good Dark Swarm right there, but you can see that the Defiler does not have the energy upgrade. I'm wondering if he even has Plague. There it is. Okay, he hits a couple of tanks, but there's not enough left over to actually take down these 3 tanks.
Sziky's still fielding good sizable armies. He's still got a sizable bank. It looks like he's setting up to go ahead and take bottom right, so units need to get out there. Mihu now swarming. I think he's realizing the situation, but again, yeah, where's his army? He's near 200 supply. And that just looks like one grouping of medic marines and losing a science vessel right there. Where is the army? That's like the big question. Is it all in those drop ships? It looks like some siege tanks delayed from behind on a defensive position. But look at Sziky's army swarming across the map. That looks like it might match, and it looks like he's going for a counterattack.
Yeah, and these are just pure Hydras again. He has no Defiler there, no Lurkers, and there's no Lurkers in this Hydraling arm on the left side. Irradiates are going to hit some of these Hydras, but again, there's action on the left side. There's just non-stop action all over the place. But unfortunately for Sziky, there's just too many tanks, and now it's starting to get a little bit too chaotic. The Marine Ball is going to move over to the right side, not going to shut down this base.
Looks like there's no Plague on top of those science vessels. There's a little bit of a Dark Swarm here and there, but there's enough Irradiate where that's getting landed. Mihu, you can just look at the banks in the upper right-hand corner. Mihu has a huge bank left. It looks like there was a Plague, but it only hit 1 science vessel. I'm a little bit concerned for Sziky. He's managed to create enough chaos at that 3rd base and elsewhere on the map, but lost the Nidus Canal now, and I don't think he's going to be able to reinforce and save this. I think all of the Defilers have been irradiated at this stage, and the science vessels are just pounding away here.
Yeah, he's desperately trying to get up a Nidus. He's trying to get more Lurkers under the Dark Swarm, but they're all getting irradiated. More Lings and Hydras moving across the map, but look at the funnel. Once they come in, Marines and Medics will just eat that alive. Also, again, the vessel count is still high. It's at 5. It still has more Radiates available. Here comes another Defiler, but doesn't have the energy. Look how fast these just get mowed down.
Yeah, this is exactly what you would want to see at a turn. You have got that nice little gap, so the Marines, everything funnels in. The Marines just Mihu now diving into the natural expansion. Nidus Canal down again, Sutton Colony down. All the Lurkers are out of the way. That looks like the Hatchery is going to be wiped out. The Defiler getting wiped out. There are some Dark Swarms, but it looks like we'll see if Mihu pockets back out of this. Some Science Vessels getting picked out in the midst of this, and it looks like even though this base is gone and drones are now fleeing, is Sziky going to wipe out this army regardless?
He might just barely, but the damage has been done. The 5th base has been taken out. The 6th base isn't even up and running. Look at Sziky's money. I mean, he's struggling. He only has 50 resources. I'm waiting for another drop from Mihu because he drew all the attention to the right side. Looks like there's not going to be a drop. Instead, it's just be another massive attack through the heart of the map, going to the 3rd base, and this is an unstoppable army. There's no medics, but it doesn't matter. There's so many tanks and vessels with this army, he just can't stop it.
Tanks, fire bats, Dark Swarm doesn't really matter anymore, especially if you're just dealing with Zerglings, because they're going to chew through that rather quickly. The Defiler just, getting obliterated by those siege tanks. The single Lurker trying to hold the line, but yeah, this is where Mihu's economy is just so strong, and there's GG from Sziky. So I got to give it to Mihu, able to wrestle control. That was a very chaotic match at multiple points. Just absolute insanity everywhere. there seem to be science vessels or defilers plaguing something or dropping a swarm left and right. Mihu, though, still, I gotta say, Mihu won that match, but he looked mortal. He looked like he was having trouble keeping up, a little bit fatigued, maybe even potentially. We'll have to see, though. 3-2, one more map, and he closes it out, and he advances to another BSL final to defend his championship against potentially the opponent from last season, DeWalt. But Sziky, what map are we going up into here? Is this going to be Eclipse? So I think that might be a decent map for Mihu to close it out. But yeah, Sziky, I don't know. We'll see what can happen here. I'm rooting for Sziky because I kind of want to see Game 7.
Yeah, regardless, that was a really wild game, really well played by both players on Ascension. A lot of action all over the place, as you stated. But in the end, Mihu, he just always overcomes the chaos, picking Sziky apart. And I still want to know, where was Mihu's army? Like, it was still sizable, but it was definitely not 200 supply. That's for sure. But we are going into Eclipse, and I'm starting to think, okay, well, if I'm Sziky here, what build am I opening with? The Monopoly build. Like, that's the go-to play from a lot of pros on this map, is to go for that overpool or 12 pool into 3-hatch. But Mihu, he stemmed across the map and killed you. So I don't know if you want to go for another play like that.
And I still want to see, especially seeing how Mihu felt just uncomfortable. It seemed like going in a lot of these matches, it seemed uncomfortable going for that for that early engineering bay play. I really want to see Sziky try to run him over Cadenzi style with Mutalisks, because I think he still could win a game that way. But thus far, he's wanted to go for longer macro matches. He was able to pick one out where Mihu was honestly kind of flubbing it, and it looks like we are ready to go into the next match here. We're going to be on Eclipse.
Okay, in the top right, one game away from another finals. It is Mihu.
And in the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, we have Sziky.
Yeah, so this would be, I think, a good time to pull out the 8-rack, simply because you haven't done it before. But also, Overpool is kind of a good opener versus a common opener here. And if you guys watched ASL, there was a game in particular where someone opened 8 racks and they went into the fast 3rd hatch, like I've mentioned, and they just didn't have the money to build Sunkens at both bases. So an 8 racks could be a great opener here, not just for the pressure on the 12 hatch, but also as kind of a blind counter into an Overpool 3 hatch play. Looks like not going to be the case though.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned for Sziky on this map because Eclipse is one of those maps where it's just like, okay, if we're playing our default standard style and just going head-to-head for a long macro match, I think Mihu has shown up to this stage to be the stronger player. We are seeing I think that's an Overpool up to this stage. Yeah, there's the Overlord spawning. So Overpool here from Sziky. So he is going to have an opportunity to get a couple Zerglings out there and maybe get something accomplished.
Yep, so far this does seem to be the 3-hatch play that I was talking about. We'll see if Sziky wants to get gas in his main. If he does get, like a 2-15 gas or something, then we're not going to see the on-location 3rd base. But everything so far does kind of tell me that that's where we're headed. Now, usually you see players go ultraless after this, but even when he opened with this on Monopoly, there was no evolution chamber. So we still don't know what the actual mid-late game plan is for Sziky with this particular build order.
And I don't know. I think he's going to have his work cut out for him, because it felt like when Mihu was indecisive and a little bit out of control previously, when he did for that eBay opener, Sziky was able to find room and get an advantage. He's going to be able to spot that SCV coming across the map with that Overlord. Looks like an initial Marine. No gas yet, and it looks like I assume we're going to see Command Center attempt for Zerglings floating across the map for Sziky, and I think he's going to move that drone out to go ahead and grab his 3rd hatchery eventually. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Mihu is just, as far as the straight macro games, has shown that he is the stronger player.
Well, Mihu should know this was an Overpool and not a 12 pool. And I gotta say, I'm already worried for Sziky. Also, the SCV sees the drone. Did it see the drone? Maybe not, but regardless, when you open Overpool, or any type of pool opener, you cannot give Terran any time to get this bunker up. The fact that Terran got this bunker up, he's just going to instantly put down that command center, and that's exactly what he's done. So now these Lings, I mean, yeah, they're going to prevent the Marines from moving across the map, but really did not get much damage done.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's better to sometime, you know, if you're going to give that time, if you're spotted, just go ahead and kill that SCV. You know, put your opponent in the dark, go from there. Because now it's going to go ahead and wander up. The Zerglings still holding on the front. They're going to be able to, it's going to spot and confirm that 3 hatchery. And so Mihu's got to feel comfortable now. He knows what it is, yeah, and he's going for that 2 racks. Going into his standard bread and butter play. I like Mihu's shot here.
This is just what you do versus this opener, is you put pressure onto their third base, force out Sunkens, and then all of a sudden, this third hatch doesn't have as much potency as it does. Like, you're not necessarily worried going into, I guess, the 10-11 minute mark as you are normally. Okay, Lings, I thought might try and surround these Marines, but it's 5 Marines, so they are just, or the Lings are just going to back off for now.
Mihu, yeah, just making sure, trying to keep those Zerglings honest. We do have Lair on the way. And, yeah, we'll see what Ziki's got, what he can do out of this. Because I feel like if he just lets Mihu do his thing, and just tries to play that mid-game where he's positioning the Mutalisks across with that third, I think you're right, Mihu's in a good position to go ahead and counter that. He's got the information. This is a build order he's practiced. This is on Eclipse, the map that, is, you know, practice. Everybody's played from the ladder. It looks like we do have that academy at the 400 tick right this second, but I don't know. What I really want to see is Sziky maybe go into quick layer Mutalisk, and again, I just want to see if he can run Mihu over with his Mutalisk micro. I think he has fantastic Mutalisk micro, and I think he could pull a game that way.
Well, this is again another 4-10 or so academy. Exact same opener as Monopoly. So this time around, Sziky should be well prepared for the stem across the map timing if it is to come. That's going to be a sunken. It needs to build though. Meanwhile, that's a factory. So again, I think that's a factory. Yeah, that is a factory. So an extremely fast factory follow-up. Really going into his tech after putting on some pressure with this Marine medic push out.
It looks like the Marines actually unloading from the bunker with these medics to go, again, potentially apply pressure early. And I'm wondering that, let's see, the Overlord sees it. The Zerglings are along the way. Did the Zerglings go for a backstab? This is kind of reminiscent of that previous situation where do the Sunken Colonies end up finishing in time or not?
Well, this time around, the Sunkens are already built, or the colonies are already built. So if they don't complete in time, somebody needs to get David Kim on the line about kind of making them morph a little bit quicker. We do see double Sunken at the third base. This is more than enough to save that base. But what makes me worried now is how fast that factory is. Because Mihu's not expecting this. Like, this was a 5-10 factory. To put that into perspective, a lot of times you see Terrans putting down a 6-minute factory, and a Terran player thinks that's fast. So this is even 50 seconds faster than that.
Now the Mutalisks are being built along the way, and we'll see what Sziky can get done out of it. He does have the Sunken Colonies on his front already, if he wants to get more aggressive with this. It looks like we do have those turrets being planted in the background. This is going to be a slightly smaller Marine count than you would expect because of that early factory, because of not having the additional barracks. The Zerglings are going to be there in position, but potentially to provide some support. So we'll see what happens. It looks like we are seeing additional droning, however, out in the field. One Mutalist actually holding back, and that's going to, well, okay, it's going to be a bit delayed. And we'll see if Sziky can find some room out of this. He's got the 5 Mutalists moving up with a nice micro shot. You can still kill an SCV with that.
Wow, fast Queen's Nest. So he is going fast Hive, but again, there's no evolution chamber. So still not sure whether this is Ultras. Is this Guardians? This could be Guardian Hydra potentially. But this tank push is going to be exceptionally fast, and it's going to have vessel support. And he's not looking to bust the third base. He's going to be going for the throat with this.
Mutalisks now moving up. It looks like the Marines are right there alongside in position to potentially engage. It looks like Sziky ignoring it. And now turning around, eating a little bit of turret damage, but he's lucky they didn't eat a huge volley of fire from the ground to really soften up some of these Mutalisks. And keeping these Mutalisks healthy and alive, it's going to be important. But is he going to spot that siege tank on the low ground? Sees the factory, sees the science facility, didn't spot the siege tank to pick it off. He's now in the SCV line, doing a bit of damage there. Now cycling this direction. Looks like he sees one siege tank spawn, able to get some damage onto it. Is going to be able to pick it off. Does pick off that siege tank. There's still another one on the low ground, but that is going to make things more difficult for Mihu.
Yeah, picking off that tank is critical for Sziky's success in this game. There's a huge difference between a 1-tank push and a 2-tank push. So nicely done from Sziky, and also he forced a lift off on that science facility. I don't even know if it was researching a radiator or not, but he almost even gets the second tank. In fact, I think he should have maybe dive bombed for it, sacked all his mutas just to get that single tank, but maybe not.
He's actually doing a great job of forcing of using Mihu's own architecture against him. That has been something that Mihu's had trouble with in the past. Now the mutas look like they're going to go ahead and migrate out. I'm wondering if that's because the Overlord just got a little bit out of position. But Sziky doing an incredible amount of damage there. Picking off the tank, softening up the second tank. That's going to force repair. We do have 2 siege tanks out, but also delaying science vessels if they are along the way. And Hive Tech looks like it's already, wow, Hive is already finished.
Yep, Hive is done. It is Hydrogen, and it is going to be Defiler mount. There's just a single evolution chamber, so it was not rushed armor for Ultra follow-up. This is just a more typical Zerg opener, but yeah, those mutas did devastating amounts of damage. And in fact, I don't even think Mihu can move across the map, because look how tiny that bio ball is. Like, it won't even beat Mutalist straight up. In fact, it might just die right here. The mutas have +1 weapon. You're going to take down this small bio ball very easily.
It looks like a lot of them got focus fired and peeled out. So for a moment, if they had like the full grouping, actually, I'm shocked that actually didn't do more damage than it did. But what this is going to do is it's going to thin out the medic marines. It's going to make any sort of push even further delayed. Mihu's still trying to get the siege tanks out to go for a push. And a Greater Spire, you called it, Greater Spire on the way.
Yeah, Greater Spire is definitely an underused building from Zerg. I wish more Zerg could think about, okay, even if I build 3 Guardians here, well, that means there's less irradiates for my incoming Defiler push. So this is perfectly played from Sziky. He does need to be careful to keep some of his Mutalisk alive, because, as I stated, there's just a single starport here. 1 vessel, maybe 2 irradiates. I mean, that could have been on the Defiler, and Defiler is obviously the critical unit here, not the Guardians for Zerg.
Yeah, and this is actually kind of looking like a scary army that Mihu has out in the field. Sziky supply about even, which is, I think, the first time in the match, in these series of matches that I've seen that. But now the Medic Marine Ball's starting to move out. There's not enough Mutalisks to force this back. And this is going to be crazy. Are the Medic Marines and the Siege Tanks going to be able to get at the 3rd or the natural expansion before Sziky's able to defend or not? The Defiler's there. There's Lurkers there. It looks like there are some Guardians morphing. The Science Vessel's on the way. Mihu doesn't see it, but I don't know that Sziky's going to be able to defend at his natural.
Once he has Dark Swarm, he might be able to defend, but you're right. There's not a lot of Lurkers here. He needs to morph Lurkers. He's got Guardians being morphed, but this is going to be a full-on base trade scenario. That's a single Defiler. We know, or a single Lurker. Oh, does he have drop? He has drop to make sure that hit, or maybe it went through the Nidus. He has something to keep his Defilers safe right now, but Guardians are going to the natural.
Guardians are moving into the natural. That distraction, he's going to go ahead and move the Lurkers forward with that Dark Swarm. So Mihu stalled. A Wraith is being produced to go ahead and deal with this. Is that going to force a cancellation? Because Wraith are paper, and if those 2 Guardians unmorph, they should be able to wipe that out. Looks like, never mind, a Devourer. That'll do it. Wanders up. So now Mihu's down a natural expansion. He's not attacked at the 9 o'clock base, nor the natural expansion. That army's just kind of flooding around. Let's see if there's more Lurkers to go ahead and deal with this in the meantime.
Well, the Guardians, 2 of them have already fallen, but this base has been shut down completely. The Dark Swarm has whittled away, but he gets one up just barely in the nick of time. As I stated, though, there's only a single Lurker. Oh, it got popped! So actually, there is a moment of vulnerability. He's going to try and knock down these Sunkens while he can. Sziky desperately needs to get some more Lurkers up, but instead he puts down a Dark Swarm on top of these tanks. He pops one of them.
Sziky needs to hurry up and get some sort of defense. More Wraith moving out, and as the Wraith count increases, Devourers don't do heavy DPS very rapidly, so they should be able to clean that up eventually. But Mihu still, what is with this macro? Still up 30 supply in the midst of this. More, so we have an Ultralisk Cavern, which feels very brave to me from Sziky, considering the pressure that's happening at his natural expansion right now. A couple Lurkers, I don't see a Defiler at all. Finally, some Marines flooding back, trying to deal with this. The Wraith cleaning up the Guardians there. That's definitely stymied the economy overall. Still 3 Siege Tank, 2 Science Vessels that look like they're going to be able to drop more Irradiates. Sziky desperately dropping some swarms. The Lurkers and Lings pressing forward. Mihu just backing out. and this is getting crazy. I don't know who to call in this match yet.
Such a crazy back and forth game, just barely. Sziky's going to survive, but at the same time, Mihu just barely going to survive the counterattack from the Guardians. He's now stabilizing. He's got his Nat back up and running, but Sziky has had his third base running for so long. We even see him feeling confident going into that Ultralisk Cavern. However, he's not out of the woodwork just yet. He needs to get more Darksworns down, more Lurkers down. It's just a couple Lurkers there. The Radiates could knock all of these Lurkers down pretty easily and quickly.
This is going to be some hero lings, and this Defiler and Lurker pressing forward. This is not a huge attack force, so if you can wipe it out, that would be gigantic. One of the siege tanks down, two of the siege tanks down, that third siege tank in retreat. The Zergling's still chasing after it, so Sziky buying himself some time, but the reinforcements in a big plague across those medic marines, hitting a huge amount of that attack force. A little bit hard to see it on red, but still two signs. This is the other thing, is with all this interruption of the natural expansion, that Science Vessel count has not grown. So Mihu's not really been able to have just the constant drop of Irradiate, and Sziky has built a decent bank behind this. He's still locked at 3 bases, but if he can breach out of this, I honestly like his odds in this match.
But Sziky is still gas-starved. I mean, he's consistently below 200 or 300 gas. We haven't seen any powerful Ultras just yet. He's still stuck building tons of Defilers, tons of Lurkers, and Lings. And meanwhile, the Bio Ball really hasn't been reset at all. He's done a good job to keep the majority of the Bio Ball alive. He even saved one of his tanks. But the key issue here is none of the vessels have died. And with double starport production and third base going up, Mihu's still in this game. Another attack coming in. The Defiler dies. Luckily for Sziky, there's still 2 more Defilers, but he cannot take losses like that. All the Lurkers are going to die. And now all of a sudden, there's nothing here that can stop Marine Medic if there were even just a couple Fire Breaths mixed in.
It just feels like Ziki's defending this with just a thread. He's just very, very, very close matches here. Zergling's trying to flood forward. Great Dark Swarm along that left edge. That's going to expose that siege tank. That siege tank very quickly getting dropped. That's going to negate some of the effectiveness of the medic reinforce. He's going to have to rely on the science vessels to push Irradiates at this stage. But Sziky now has a big bank behind this. He's sat back. Mihu is not grabbed. It looks like he's just now grabbing a third base, and Ultralisks have taken the field.
Yep, Ultralisks are out on the map now, but you can see they still only have +1 armor or +3 armor right now. Meanwhile, the Marines should definitely have +2 by now. They may even have +3. What? He only has +1? Does that say +1? No, it cannot possibly say it has +1.
+2, +1 armor. Looks
So
like
he
in
does
there.
have-
But the Ultralisk looks like it's going to be able to wander in. It's pinning a lot of these Marines to it, and Sziky kind of waving them around and wiping out, and some of the medics stranded, so they're going to get wiped out. The Zerglings now feeling strength, and irradiated Ultralisks means they do pretty good DPS if they can hug Marines like this. And Mihu all of a sudden in flight and has to defend a lot of the territory. Things have opened up for Sziky entirely.
Yeah, but Ultras won't trade well when they're down upgrades. Even this small Bio Ball is going to take down 3 Ultralisk here. Supplies are still very good for Sziky. He's within 20 supply of a Terran. That's fantastic if you're...
And it looks like he's going to go ahead and grab an additional base. There was a single Marine to at least scout that, so Mihu knows what position he's in. More science vessels are... I think there is double starport behind this. The science vessel count continuing to grow. He needs to drop Irradiates, and Sziky feeling strong enough, he's going to expand twice behind this. Mihu needs to do something, and he needs to do it quickly, because if he doesn't, Ziki's just going to be able to roll out of control.
Yep, now that the econ is starting to kick in, you're seeing more and more Ultralisks being popped out. 4th base still not done for Sziky, but that is a ton of blue moving across the map. However, there is not a single Defiler in this army. However, Mihu's army is completely out of position. He's scrambling to get back, but I have a feeling that this might be a mistake from Sziky here. There's so many vessels that can just irradiate for days. He may get all of these SCVs though, so that would be a huge win for him.
Courage wandering forward. It looks like they're going to get picked off. Might be able to get some SCVs, might be able to force a lift off. It looks like he's moving the Ultralisk to go ahead and engage the SCVs so they get taken care of. The main, I believe, is mined out for Mihu at this stage. The natural expansion's probably thin, so he really, well, it looks like, okay, it's still barely running, but looking very thin, so he does need to establish that 3rd base and make sure that it's up and running. Looks like he is able to counterattack that 4 o'clock base. Sziky can still cancel that. Looks like, able to, I think that was a cancel, able to save that and go ahead and grab that 9 o'clock base. If he can get additional gas and hold on, he'll be in a really strong position. Right now, though, Sziky, it looks like Mihu re-macroing, restarting to position. It looks like he's catching some breathing room to start taking it to Sziky.
Yeah, I'm still okay with Mihu's position, but it is dangerous. Ziki's got his 4th base up and running. he desperately needs more gas, though. Defiler's going to get picked off. These Ultras going to get picked off. That's a great Plague, but that's going to be 2 dead Ultralists, pretty much just for a Plague in return.
And we'll see if, yeah, these are, now that that Science Vessel count is looking good and it's just starting to devastate everything, Mihu's setting up for more of a long-term match. It looks like he's positioning maybe to take the 11 luck as well. Science Vessel getting picked off right there. It looks like 2 weakened Science Vessels going to go ahead and press forward. They're probably going to get picked off by these Scourge. And Mihu just, it feels like he's just throwing these Science Vessels away. And that is your advantage late game. And that was a lot of Science Vessels to drop very, very quickly.
And behind this, I saw the BC add-on to the Science Facility. So BC is most likely in production. It's going to be a long time before Mihu can replenish that vessel count. Another small attack, or actually a big attack, coming from Mihu into the left side, but Dark Swarm can hold the line for now. Here comes that Defiler looking for the catch-up. There it goes, hits more of the vessels, but he really needs to connect onto these Marines.
Looks like some Zergling's going to try to push this back. Mihu actually backing out, but honestly, I think he can regroup and probably push right back into this. There is I don't think there's a Nidus done. There's a Swarm. Yeah, no Nidus in position. A swarm of Zerglings trying to get in position to try to push this back, but no Defiler with them. And it's going to be a long time before a Defiler is there to provide support. Looks like Mihu wants to go ahead and grab that 4 o'clock base while this is all happening. Level 2 Carapace online. I feel like Mihu's been a little bit behind in the upgrades overall for his Marines. He's still at, yeah, just now hitting level 3 weapons, level 2 armor. So they are starting to hit the stronger stage. But I gotta say, Mihu's got a big bank, and I haven't seen him spend it a lot. Mihu is up 30 supply. He is grabbing additional group, and that Science Vessel count, yeah, he's done a great job of dropping a lot of radiates. It's continuing to grow. Outside of that massacre that happened about a minute and a half ago, man, this is a long trail. Look at that trail of Swarm. That is all the way up to that upper left, finally able to engage this Sziky. And it's funny because it's like all of that is basically just to defend the 9 o'clock position. But Mihu looks like he's doing a pretty good job of just walking out of it and dropping irradiates and getting a lot of damage done.
Yeah, but Mihu needs to get another base pretty soon because his main and natural about to be mined out. Oh, actually, I forgot. Bottom middle has been taken, and Zerg has no idea that this has been taken. So that's going to be a big influx of resources for Mihu once that gets up and running. Those Ultras are all very heavily damaged, so they need to be careful if they ever spot even just a small group of bio or a round of vessels, a round of irradiates, I mean, could kill all 4 of them.
Oh, Science Vessel's a little out of position. A lot of Scourge moving up, and it looks like the Marines aren't going to be there in time, and another 2 Science Vessels fall. And the more Science Vessels, that's a lot of gas. The more Science Vessels that are getting picked off in that manner, the better. It looks like the Sziky's main finally potentially going to get mined out. It looks like he's discovered that that 4 o'clock position is up and running. I don't know that Mihu can defend that, so mostly he's going to try to keep threatening this 9 o'clock position in order to force Sziky from ever making an attempt. They're dropping some great irradiates here in the meantime.
Yeah, there's really not much in this or for defense at bottom right, so this could be taken out in a heartbeat. A lot of lanes, couple Ultralists, and a single Defiler gonna ruin Mihu's day here. Dark Swarm comes down, and now he's got to evacuate ASAP. Instead, SCVs are gonna stay here and try and fight, but they are not gonna last very long at all. And Mihu needs to make something happen. He's got a huge army in the center of the map, but the vessel count is really lacking now. There's 2 BCs, no Yamato, so Defilers can still cast Dark Swarm.
BCs actually might be exactly what the doctor ordered, because Sziky has had a hard time getting his gas count high, and right now he has very little gas to get Scourge out in the air to work with this, and it looks like the drone's transferring, unfortunately engaging Lings rather than anything else, and Ultra is trying to run midfield as well, so there's a lot of Ultras on the ground, still nothing to deal with the BCs that are now pushing in. It looks like a Plague dropped on him to soften them up, but Medic Marines now diving to the natural expansion. I don't see a Defiler there, and I only see 3 Ultralisks to try to defend all of this.
Yeah, he focus fired the Defiler also, so all that's left is just Lings and Ultras, and they're just streaming in one by one. And does Mihu have critical mass here? The BCs are still alive. If he can pick off this Defiler coming in from the top side, I think he's just going to bust through.
And that's going to be all of Sziky's hatcheries. That's going to be a lot of his tech. And I don't know that he just can't afford to rebuild anywhere else on the map. It looks like he's swarming around. The BCs are going to cut that off. The Defiler bound goes down, so he doesn't have any additional Defilers. Plus the Defiler's getting picked off by the BCs. Brilliant positioning from Mihu, but now Sziky getting here. Irradiate's being dropped. The Medic Marine still in the natural expansion. There's just a desiccated corpse of the Ultralist that's left, and I think Mihu's done it. Now walking up into the natural expansion, And this feels like he's moments away from moving on to the BSL Season 14 finals.
Yeah, he has definitely done it. So much more bio moving across the map. All he needs now is fire bats mixed in, and then there's no counter. The Lings obviously can't win. Sziky is gas starved. He can't build any ultras. He can't really build any lurkers either. There's not a single defiler here. There's nothing left. And again, the BCs are going to pick off 2 more defilers. Mihu showing impeccable Terran versus Zerg, and he's going to take down one of the strongest players in the tournament.
And now Sziky, now it's just kind of regroup, and kind of, you can see, I think he's basically stopped. Yeah, there's GG exiting. Sziky gave us some fantastic matches, and I got to give credit to him. I want to see him the next season. I think he's capable, honestly. Honestly, I'm going to say it this way. I don't feel like Sziky played his best today, is what I feel like. I don't feel like Mihu played his best either, in the same regard. I think Mihu deservingly moves on to the final. I think Sziky is capable of taking a BSL championship, but not this season. Now we're going to see a repeat matchup of DeWalt versus Mihu as part of the BSL Season 14 Grand Finals tomorrow on Zero's birthday.
Yeah, and what a finals that's going to be. Obviously a repeat from last season, and you know DeWalt wants it badly. But at the same time, Mihu wants to prove that, hey, last season, not a fluke. I am here to stay. I'm going to be a repeat champion. But Sziky today, he played his heart out. The last couple games were definitely very exciting, especially Ascension and the Eclipse game that we just saw. I thought that for sure he was going to take the Eclipse game and the Ascension game. But Mihu just a little bit too strong. He thrives in the chaos. Like, he's all over the place. And Sziky got insane APM, man. Like, he's all over the place. But Mihu made Sziky look somewhat normal. Like, it's crazy how strong his movement is. So no, Sziky shouldn't feel bad about losing that. I mean, he played very well today, and he unfortunately is going to be in the 3rd and 4th place match again. But it is going to be an exciting day tomorrow. We've got 2 great matchups.
So be sure to tune in tomorrow. Also, I think we're going to split to the sponsor screen. Everyone, support Optimonk, Esports Fund. They do amazing things. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe, donate. Actually caught Zero a little bit off guard there. Subscribe, donate, join the Patreon. I feel like Nayokin does a really good job with the read-offs of the donation, so I'll go ahead and let him talk about the patrons here.
Yeah. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $100 level. Thank you, Star Lover. $50 level, Anthony Chen, Martin Harsmar, Striker, and Zero Sum. $30 level, Robert Groot, Flizardo 86, Cuz, and Tupacalypse. And $20 level, Nick Schuler, Christian Eddington, LML, Lincoln Pump, Niantic, and Quark. And all you other Patreon supporters, we didn't forget about you. Thank you again for supporting the BSL. And remember, $10 or above Patreon support, you get all the replays. I don't know how you could not want the replays after today. Back-to-back, amazing best of 7s. Definitely the best PvP I've ever seen. Very good TVZ. It was not bad at all, and it was fantastic, but it's hard to compare to the first series because that was amazing. And, you know, you're going to get the replays from the Grand Finals too. So definitely think about becoming a Patreon supporter for BSL.
Hope you guys enjoyed everything. I got to give credit to Nayokin for being a Catholic beast today. Be sure to join him once again tomorrow for an amazing grand final. And yeah, appreciate all y'all. Thanks for listening.
Yep, thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.